Everyone, welcome to City Hall. We're getting ready for a meeting of the Los Angeles City Council. It is now 10:10 a.m. and we Good morning again, everyone. Welcome to City Hall, welcome to Council Chambers, and welcome to a meeting of the Los Angeles City Council for today, Friday, May 23rd, 2003. The City Council meets every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m. Meetings are open to the public, and we invite you to join us. For those of you unable to attend council meetings, we can be viewed live on your cable stations, Channel 35, We can be viewed live via webcast from the city's homepage or heard via council phone. It is now 10:27 a.m. We have 8 members present, still too shy of a quorum, but this being Friday, as is customary, we do have a number of presentations and introductions scheduled for today. Let's begin today's meeting by recognizing council members Zine and Weiss.
Thank you, Mr. President, colleagues. It's always a pleasure to recognize the fine members of the Los Angeles Police Department. And Councilman Weiss and I this morning are going to recognize from the West Valley Division 2 officers, and we talk about powers of observation, investigative techniques, and what the police are out there for to protect and to serve. In this particular case, which occurred in the adjoining district, District 5, the fires that were taking place in houses of worship. And while they took place in the Encino area, officers from the West Valley Division, which Councilman Weiss and I share with the West Valley LAPD, wanted to recognize the work of the officers that really led to the apprehension of the individual that was responsible for setting fires in the houses of worship in the San Fernando Valley. 2 officers, James Marshall and Holly Thompson, were both on patrol in the West San Fernando Valley when one night they issued a traffic citation to a pedestrian, and subsequent to that, which was after the fires began, they started putting one and one together, started checking back on the traffic citations that the suspect's description matched an individual they cited a few days prior. It led to a surveillance by the police department and the subsequent apprehension of the individual. So Officer Marshall's mom became ill, and he's not here to receive the recognition this morning, but we have his partner who is here. But it's just a cooperative effort with the community. We have also the representative from the Baha'i Center, and I'll turn the microphone over to Councilman Weiss in a second. But the cooperative effort of a community that really came together where an individual was terrorizing houses of worship. And it wasn't one specific faith. There were a variety of faiths that were attacked by this individual. And if it wasn't for the action of the officers and the observation and the recall and going back on that citation, we still may be having the problem taking place. And the tragedies have ceased. So people can go to the temples and the houses of worship and pray without being fearful. And it was interesting that the Valley Beth Shalom, I was at a dinner the night before the attack on that house of worship, so it really hit home. And I know Councilmember Weiss was very involved in working with the police department, trying to get this to closure, and thank goodness it was brought to closure. So from the 3rd District, where West Valley Division rests, to the 5th District, where West Valley Division patrols, I wanted to join my colleague in recognizing the good work of the LAPD officers, which oftentimes, as we know, goes unnoticed. We also have Chief Bergman with us this morning, and also Captain Jim Kanzler from the West Valley LAPD, and Councilman Jack Weiss.
Thank you, Mr. Zine. The one thing I would say to you, Mr. Zine, and I know you didn't mean this intentionally, is that they're not tragedies. They're atrocities. They're crimes. Crime is not a tragedy. It's crime. And we're very fortunate that when crimes occur in our community, that officers such as Officers Thompson and Marshall, folks like Deputy Chief Bergman and Captain Kanzler are on the scene, as indeed they were a few weeks ago in the Valley, and we very much appreciate their efforts. Now, let's be very clear. They were just doing their job, and in a sense, there's nothing extraordinary about that, because that's what your job is. But you did it extraordinarily well, and many people in the community are very grateful to you. And people are also very grateful, I should note, to the dozens, indeed hundreds of other folks in the LA Police Department and the LA Fire Department who also rolled on those crimes. I want to particularly single out the folks from the Counterterrorism Bureau who put all those detectives, all those resources onto the streets, followed a whole bunch of leads. This happened to be a good lead, but there were just dozens, if not hundreds of leads that did not pan out but also had to be investigated. The counterterrorism folks did that on behalf of all of us. And so on behalf of the City Council, thank you very much for just doing your job and just doing it so well. On behalf of Chuck Hall from the Baha'i community as well, the community is very grateful to you. Thank you very much.
Ms. Misikowski.
Excuse me, before the officer speaks, Mr. Padilla just recognized me. I, too, want to stand with my colleagues, having been a former representative of the West Valley area in terms of part of my council district. And I just, again, it's so important and so interesting, although Mr. Weiss talked about this being just a part of the job, it was a part of the job done so extremely well that in spite of the fact, and although the department reacted quickly and put a task force together and put detectives out there, it was the community police officers, the ones who are out there in basic car, doing the job day in, day out, with eyes open, eyes alert, that put this together. I mean, that's what is so phenomenal about this story. It isn't an extraordinary effort of a lot of different people out there. It was the day-to-day beat officer on the street who's doing the job, and that's why I hope you tell the story about what and how you really got about this. And I think that is part of the real inspiration to every officer who is out there on patrol. We add a lot of special units and a lot of special things, but it's those officers who know the community, know what's right, know what's wrong. We ask our community to be part of Neighborhood Watch and work with the officers. But it's the best example I think I've ever heard of officers who just are alert, know that community, know something doesn't feel right, looks wrong, and then make the connection. That's terrific. And I want to congratulate you, both Captain Kanzler and Chief Bergman as well, for helping to inspire and create that sense of policing in the San Fernando Valley as well as throughout the city. So my congratulations as well.
Thank you very much. On behalf of my partner, Officer Marshall, and I want to thank you so much for this gracious award. We never would have thought that we would have gotten an award for just doing our job. We just happened to be at the right place at the right time. We were driving westbound on Ventura Boulevard, and this person just ran across the street in front of some vehicles, causing them to brake and almost causing an accident. So we just pulled him over to give him a citation for crossing against the red light. And it just so happened that he was about to strike. And minutes after we issued the citation, we're on our way to another call, way on the other side of our division, when we heard the call of the window smash come out, and the description of the suspect fit the guy that we had just cited. So we both said to each other, that sounds like, and my partner noticed that he had a barbecue lighter in his pocket. So that was another really good observation that led to us putting a copy of the citation with the report of the window smash, which at the time we didn't know. He was planning on lighting that building on fire. And it just all fell into place. So thank you. There were so many people that made this happen. I feel guilty accepting this award. So I just want to thank everybody that helped catch this suspect. And thanks, City Council, so much from me and Officer Marshall.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, and I have one more presentation for Lady of Woodland Hills. Mr. President and colleagues, we have a very active Woodland Hills community, very active neighborhood council, and very concerned about public safety. And we had Fire Service Day just a few weeks ago, and we were both visiting fire facilities, and our paths did not cross that day. So I do have a certificate of congratulations to Sandy Enfield, as the president of the Woodland Hills Neighborhood Council, who's been named honorary fire chief representing the San Fernando Valley Los Angeles Fire Department. So I want to make this presentation to you, Sandy, for all the good work you do for public safety, for the Woodland Hills community, for Neighborhood Council. I know your husband George is there taking photographs, and Ron just stood in front of him, so he can't take the photograph, but Ron will move aside so George can't take the photograph. But all the work you do for Woodland Hills, and I know my colleague Cindy Musikowski, who's smiling over there, used to represent Woodland Hills before redistricting, and it was a pleasure for me to take that district over when redistricting took place, and we've worked together with neighborhood councils, and I remember when Councilman Musikowski and I attended the meetings early in the stage when you were putting together neighborhood council in Woodland Hills. So you've got a fully committed neighborhood council, which you're leading in a very positive fashion. You've got now your fire chief, I thought it was fire marshal, fire chief, and you do so much good for the community, and we want to continue working to make that happen more and more. So congratulations, and you're wearing red today, which is appropriate, being the fire chief. And earlier this morning, we were in Public Works, where you were recognized for the work doing in the community from the Board of Public Works. So you get 2 recognitions today. So I'm going to give you the microphone to say a couple of words. And again, thank you for all you do for our community, Sandy.
Thank you. Dennis and I put out fires in the community. Thank you.
Mr. President, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Zine. Before I recognize Mr. Labange for our next presentation, colleagues, joining me in congratulating and welcoming to council chambers, I believe for the first time, council member-elect from the 12th District, Mr. Greg Smith.
Mr. President, members of council, I have a commendation for Greg Smith for all his years of service that I'm teasing. Greg, good to see you here, and congratulations to you. And I'd like to ask Randy Howard to join me right now from the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power. And Wendy Yancey, I'd like you to join me right now, if you would. Members, what we have right now, and Young G, if you pass this out, we have someone who's a real special employee to the city of Los Angeles. That's Pete Guerra. Pete, come up here. Give him a big hand right now. You were the Navy. Yeah, that's right. Pete was born in Brooklyn, New York, and he came out to Los Angeles in Duarte in 1957, where he was raised. He was a member of the United States Navy and served in Vietnam. And after coming back from Vietnam, he was reassigned to Pensacola, Florida, Navy School, where he learned photography. Years later, he took a job with the city of Los Angeles, the Los Angeles Police Department, where he was many things having to photograph crime scenes. Unfortunately, over in his period of time, many hundreds of very tough crime scenes. But after his work at the Los Angeles Police Department, he then moved to the great Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, where his skills and talents as a photographer were only enhanced by the beauty of what the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, the people of Los Angeles own, from the waterways in the Owens Valley, through the great deserts of the Colorado Mojave, to all the facilities in Los Angeles. And Wendy Yancey come out here as the government liaison, join Randy right here. But we wanted to, as council member and as a photographer who appreciates great work, we wanted to salute Pete, because Pete captured one of the great moments of Los Angeles just this last winter. And in the time of winter, the sun is at its furthest most point in the City of Angels, and the greatest sunsets occur in Los Angeles, the most colorful sunsets because of the southern sun. And Pete climbed high atop the Metropolitan Transit Authority building and captured our city at probably about 5:35 that evening, about that time, I'm guessing, because that is when it's absolutely the most beautiful time. So I thought it was important to call on our friends from Water and Power and ask them to share this so you could put this in your field offices or in your offices to see the real beauty of Los Angeles. Just last weekend, USA Today magazine, which is distributed, listed the 11 most beautiful places in the country, and the San Francisco Golden Gate Bridge was one of the great views, but the view of Los Angeles, view of Pittsburgh, where the Allegheny and Mahogany and all the rivers, I didn't say that right, I know when the Steelers play, but they had Pittsburgh, but I know the view of Los Angeles that you captured certainly would lineup there, if not from the central part of the city, certainly from Mount Hollywood, where you see all the great expanse of Los Angeles and San Fernando Valley. So, Peter, I wanted to give you this commendation to salute you for all you do. I know this is not the last time that we'll see you, because you're going to continue your service for Los Angeles, but for capturing this great photograph and as a gift to the members, we salute you and congratulate you. Also, I wanted to, before we call on Peter, to say, please welcome his family, his loving wife, Vicki, who is here, his daughter, Christine, who's 11, son, Tim, who's 15, and John, who's 17, and also his mother, Pauline. Please welcome to Los Angeles City Hall. Pete, your photograph needs no words of explanation, but please give us a few comments. I know Eric's very excited about it.
Well, thank you very much. It's nice being a part of history, and I enjoy recording the history of Los Angeles. Obviously, when you walk through the halls here, you see photographers of years ago and how they preserved the beauty and the changing of the city. So during the years that I'm here, I hope I can continue on with that tradition, and after me, photographers will continue to record the beautiful history of Los Angeles. I'd like to thank Bob Schaefer, who's here, who is my supervisor, media supervisor. He gives me the creative freedom to go out and photograph, and he's been generous in supporting me in that regard. And thank you very much.
Pete, thank you. One last thing to Randy Howard, just the Director of Government Affairs for LADWP.
Yeah, on behalf of DWP, we really want to thank Pete. His talents aren't just in beautiful photography like this. He spends a lot of time doing very technical photography, which is a whole different skill set, but he has certainly demonstrated skills in both. We just want to congratulate and thank him.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And for your family, since you're such an angel in the Seat of Angels, a loaf of pumpkin bread from the Monastery of the Angels for breakfast tomorrow. Thank you, Mr. President, members.
Thank you, Mr. Labange. One more presentation for Mr. Labange. In the meantime, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Burnson, Galanter, Garcetti, Grolahan, Holden, Labange, Misakowski, Pacheco, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Weiss, Line, Padilla, 12 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. The council is officially in session. Mr. Labange.
Members, I just wanted to bring in here and ask Jack Weiss. Is Jack Weiss still here? Would you please join me? Because you seconded this motion. And Jack, this year, the 2003 Los Angeles Film Festival is being presented here with the best of Los Angeles, best of American and international cinema, and a nonstop celebration as U.S. filmmakers and others bring these various great works of film together, as we know, and we all support film. We wanted to salute you. This will take place in Los Angeles from June 11th to June 21st. And the Los Angeles Film Festival's various screening locations include the ArcLight Cinema in the 13th District, the Directors Guild, the John Anson Ford Theater in the Great Cahuenga Pass, and Lemley 5, the Wadsworth Theater in Westwood, Sawtell, the 8000 Sunset Complex, as well as the Virgin Mega Store, second floor theater. It's a lot of different places throughout the city of Los Angeles. This is the 9th annual Los Angeles Film Festival that celebrates the best that independent cinema has to offer. And this June, over 40,000 people will be lucky enough to discover a new filmmaker, a new cinematographer, a new movie, a new experience. The IFP Los Angeles Film Festival shows more than 70 features, 90 shorts, and 40 music videos around the world. There are some of them for everyone to play, and it's good to go out and see something new and different than the regular mainstream that we all try to do. So I just wanted to join with my colleague Jack Weiss and salute the Los Angeles Film Festival 2003 and call on all Angelinos to try something new, try an independent film, try something that will probably blossom into a great film for time and memorial. Jack, would you say a few words as a...
Thank you, Tom, although none of us really want to follow Tom LaBonge when it's a speech about something that has the words Los Angeles and Festival in the title. But it's terrific that you guys are doing what you're doing. I agree with Tom that we should all get out and enjoy the sort of films that you feature, although I want you to know, unfortunately, I have no life. I don't make it to the movies that often, and when I do, it's more of the Harry Potter Daddy Daycare variety than what you feature at your festival. But I wish you success, and I think it's terrific that you're here in Council Chamber to acknowledge how strongly connected you are with the city of Los Angeles. Congratulations.
Jack, we're going to hear from Dawn Hudson now, who's the Executive Director of IFP Los Angeles. Please welcome her, and congratulations on all your work.
Thank you. Good morning, Council President Alex Padilla and council members. We are so honored to be here. My name is Dawn Hudson. I'm Executive Director of IFP in Los Angeles. We are a nonprofit organization that supports independent filmmakers and helps to build audiences for independent film, and the Los Angeles Film Festival is one of our premier programs. We are so excited to accept this honor, and I especially want to thank council members Tom LaBonge and Jack Weiss and Eric Garcetti, who've been especially enthusiastic and supportive of the festival. The festival takes place in June, and we're proud to put Los Angeles on the global stage at that time and bring together the best of U.S. and world cinema. Our festival reflects the scope of this great city and the diversity of this great city, and we hope that everyone who attends will find it rejuvenating and inspiring, and it's for everyone who loves movies. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for this beautiful proclamation. I was hoping for a loaf of bread, too, but...
I have one in my trunk. There, let's give Ms. Hudson and all the folks here from the Film Festival a big hand. Thank you.
I want to introduce our director of the Los Angeles Film Festival, Richard Radden.
Just wanted to say 2 words really quickly. To Councilmember Jack Weiss, we actually have something this year at the festival for everyone. We're showing Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. It's a free screening, and it's a sing-along, and it's in the evening at 8,000, so it's free. It's in the evening.
Can Mr. Weiss give us a sneak preview?
Would you like to do a little?
I forgot all those songs. I'm sorry.
The other thing that's interesting is Friday the 13th at the Ford Amphitheater, we're going to be showing a horror film. It's mummies and zombies. It's a wonderful movie, very scary. It's called 28 Days Later, and I'm hoping that Councilmember Tom LaBonge will come out and introduce the film, and we'll even put him in makeup for the introduction. Would you?
I don't need makeup.
But thank you very much. We appreciate your support. You know, this last week we've heard a lot about the Cannes Film Festival, and we've been hearing about the Tribeca Film Festival. And I submit to you and to the people around the world that this is the greatest city on earth, and this city deserves a world-class film festival, and we appreciate, we're working very diligently to make that happen. This year we have 32 countries that are going to be represented at the film festival with their filmmakers. We are putting our schedulers out all over town to let 40,000 people know about it. We have wonderful support from our sponsors, Target and InStyle, and we have great support from you, and we thank you for that, and we hope to see you at the film festival June 11th through the 21st. You can go to lafilmfest.com to look up and get tickets, and we have a bunch of free events, so not everything costs money. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Weiss and Mr. LaBonge. We also have a special introduction by Councilmember Hahn. Ms. Hahn, for a special introduction.
Thank you, Mr. President, colleagues. I just really want to take this opportunity to welcome a constituent from mine from Harbor City, Grace Bradbury, who wanted to come see where I work. But Grace is one of those that we just gave an award to for our Public Week's Work honorees. And I wanted to take this opportunity to say Grace Bradbury, every day of her life, faxes into our Public Works Department, Bureau of Street Services, a list of areas in her community that either have illegal dumping going on, couches, chairs, trash. Her and her friend make regular drives through the community, and she is one of those that has decided not just to complain about the way her community looks, but on a daily basis does good, hard work that results in our Bureau of Street Services making their job a little bit easier to go out and clean up her community. So I wanted to publicly recognize Grace and say you are truly a model for all members of Los Angeles to not just complain, but be an active partner with us in cleaning up our community. So thanks, Grace, and here's where I work every day.
Thank you, Ms. Hahn. Madam Clerk, first order of business, please.
Approval of the minutes.
Ms. Miskowski moves and Ms. Grul seconds.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Ms. Hahn moves and Mr. Park seconds.
On the regular agenda, Mr. President, there's a request to continue item number 5. The applicant consents to a continuance to May 28th.
Members request to continue item number 5 to next Wednesday, May 28th. Without objection, so ordered.
And also number 8, the clerk has not received the budget resolution in the office yet, and there's a request to continue that matter to Tuesday, May 27th.
Okay, members, item 8 is the budget resolution reflecting our votes from last Monday. Without objection, that too is continued, and let me just inform Mr. Jim McQuiston, who's here to speak on the item, that we will not be acting on item 8 today. Next item.
And also there's a request from Councilmember Parks to continue item number 13 for 1 week, and that would be May 30th.
Members request to continue item 13 as well, also without objection. Next item.
On the regular agenda, item number 1 is an item noticed for public hearing. There is an ordinance and an amendment that has been distributed to the council members.
And I do not have requests on item number 1 from members of the public to address the council on this item, so we shall deem the public hearing open and closed. Members wishing to call this matter special. Ms. Miskowski.
1A is a technical amendment, just removing the recommendation number 1 from the file, inasmuch as that has already occurred. The negative declaration has already been previously approved and adopted. So with that amendment, I move item 1.
Okay. A small technical amendment we'll consider without objection. Is there anybody wishing to call item 1 special for further discussion? If not, let's consider item 1 as amended. Madam Clerk, please open the roll. Please close the roll and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
That is approved. Next item, please.
Items 2 through 7 are items for which public hearings have been held. Item 2, there are 2 reports on the file. A motion is required. Item number 6, a committee report has been submitted and distributed to the council members.
Okay, members, items 2 through 7 before us. Any specials? Mr. Reyes?
Item number 4, please.
Item 4, call special by Mr. Reyes. Mr. Weiss?
3 and 7, please.
3, call special by Mr. Weiss. Item 7, call special by Mr. Weiss. Item 5 has been continued. Colleagues, I do need a motion on item 2. And is there a motion on item 6? Any motions on item 2 or 6? If not, we'll call these matters special. Let's hold them on the desk as we await a motion. Next item.
The next items, Mr. President, items for which public hearings have not been held, items 9 through 42.
Members, items 9 through 42 now before us, and I do not have requests from members of the public to address the council on these items. We shall deem the public hearing satisfied. Members wishing to call any special. Items 9 through 42. Any specials? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please open the roll. Please close the roll and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Those are approved. Next item, please.
On the continuation agenda, item number 43 is an item for which public hearing has been held.
And item 43 is now before us, colleagues. Members wishing to call this matter special.
Yes.
Ms. Perry?
Yeah, I'd like to call that special.
Ms. Perry calls item 43 special. And if that is the end of our regular meeting agenda. Colleagues, let me just bring your attention to a special meeting agenda which has been posted for 11:15. Since it's not 11:15 quite yet, we'll get to it in due time. Madam Clerk, coming back to items called special.
Going back to the items called special, item number 2 is being held on the desk for a motion. There are 2 reports on the file.
Okay, Madam Clerk, may I ask which committee reports
I
are
believe,
before us for consideration?
There are 2 committee reports, a communication from the Chair of Personnel and a Budget and Finance Committee report, and I understand the Budget and Finance Committee report is the report to be adopted.
I would
Mr. Zine?
I request to remove the Budget and Finance report.
Okay, seconded by Ms. Mizikowski. Any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please open the roll on item number 2. Please close the roll and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
That is approved. Next item, please.
Item number 3 was called special by Councilmember Weiss.
Mr. Weiss.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, this item concerns the topic of those GCP funds, which have been the subject of some discussion in recent weeks. And what Ms. Gruhl and I put forward was a proposal to ensure that the public will have the guarantee it needs that these funds, which have previously been appropriated under prior year's budgets, are spent on public purposes, are spent transparently and for the reasons that they were intended. As a result of the motion that Ms. Gruhl and I put forward, there are 2 recommendations for you that have been approved by the Budget Committee. The first is to indicate that the forms which have been used historically for the disbursement of these GCP funds shall be modified so that, and you can read about it in point A here, and there will require a certification from both the council member and the recipient that these funds are used in accordance with all local laws and are not used to directly or indirectly influence the outcome of any election or ballot measure or for any other political purposes. The second requirement is a reporting requirement to require full disclosure on an annual basis of the GCP funds to non-governmental recipients. This was something that was unanimously supported at the Budget and Finance Committee. There is a third matter that we have asked the Clerk's Office and the CLA to work on together, which concerns this business of when contracts under the sum of $5,000 aggregate and trigger the, or when GCP disbursements under the sum of $5,000 aggregate and trigger the contracting requirement. Right now, there's a contracting requirement if you make a disbursement that is in excess of $5,000. The question is, if lower-level disbursements are made to the same recipient, should that, under some circumstances, also trigger a contracting requirement? The Clerk's Office and the CLA asked to have the opportunity to work on that because there are a number of issues that get raised in that context, and that's fine. But the important bottom line is this. These are public funds. They should only be used for proper public purposes. We need to have the proper certification and the proper level of disclosure to ensure that that happens. And by passing this measure, which has been passed previously by Budget and Finance Committee, we will ensure that those funds which have been appropriated in the past and which may be appropriated or may not be appropriated again in the future are spent only in the right way, for the right reasons, with the proper level of disclosure and transparency. Urge and I vote.
Thank you, Mr. Weiss. Other members wishing to be heard on this item? Ms. Hahn.
Mr. President, my only concern with this is A, and that both the council member and the recipient have to sign a, what? A certification that the funds are in accordance with all local laws. What local laws, Jack? Well, how would what would a nonprofit be signing at this point that they are agreeing that these funds are used in accordance with all local laws? And the other thing is, and they're not used to directly or indirectly influence the outcome of any election or ballot measure or for any other political purposes. My only concern is, again, how would a nonprofit organization understand what all local laws mean?
Well, I would certainly hope that any recipient of public monies would use the money in a lawful manner. And I would also hope and expect that the monies would not be used directly or indirectly for political purposes. And I suspect that in 99.9% of the cases that are out there, that's not even an issue. But it's useful to make it clear to people who are receiving public money that when they are receiving public money, that it has to be spent for the purpose that it was offered for, period.
I mean, I agree with you. I just want to make sure that this is not an issue that, I mean, it seems to me the local law issue is already in place. So if in fact they were found to misuse the funds in accordance with local laws, I mean, what recourse would we have at this point without them signing this?
Not sure I understand the question.
Well, isn't it, if you said it's a given that any organization receiving public monies certainly knows that they have to spend them within the limits of the law, what does this add?
Well, I think, given the sensitivity that the public has to this particular funding device, that it is important and incumbent upon the council to ensure that recipients of these funds act properly in all respects with respect to the use of these funds. And I don't think that I don't think the public wants the council to be cavalier with these funds. I don't think the public wants recipients to be cavalier with these funds. And these are very modest certification requirements to ensure that people, the council member and the recipient, do not act cavalierly and act lawfully.
Right. I mean, I understand that. I think, for instance, some of my GCP money goes to teen conferences and young people events, which is fine. I'm just wondering if these organizations, you know, certainly, it's almost like I would rather us include that in sort of a letter with the check than making them have to sign that these funds will never be, you know, will not be used unlawfully and will not, I think putting in the political outcome of any election or ballot measure, I think that's a bit heavy to place on some of the organizations I think about when I give my GCP money to. Again, a lot of them are teen events. Like I said, I would rather, I think it would be prudent upon us to say, when we handed the check to them, we have a form letter where we say this. We want to make sure you understand that these funds cannot be used. But I think this signing of this, I don't know, it just feels a little heavy-handed.
Well, if I may respond, I think it's the opposite, Ms. Hahn, because the public properly demands that all public monies be spent in a non-political manner. And I think it is incumbent upon us to certify to the best of our knowledge that funds that are dispersed from these accounts are not used in a political manner, directly or indirectly. And I think it is important to notify these recipients and to have them certify that that's not what they intend to do with the money. Now, I don't think the teen, I don't really know what you're talking about, but the teen uses or whatever, they're probably too young to vote anyway, and I doubt that those are going to be the sort of entities that are going to cross the line and get into politics. We just want to make very clear that you can't use these monies for political purposes.
Ms. Gruhl.
Thank you, Mr. President and colleagues. Janice, I understand your concerns. One of the things that, and I don't know, Mr. Weiss, if this would be amenable to you, is on the issue of local laws. I think the point you're trying to get is people may not understand all the local laws that apply. And maybe we can, in whatever they have to sign, have some summary, a general summary of parameters of what kinds of local laws we're referring to. Secondly, that if there's a city attorney, if they want to talk to them about that, that's something that generally says, here are what the we would assume are the local laws that would refer to your particular item on that day, you know, that you're signing. Because it may be, your concern may be there's a local law that they had no idea, and it had nothing to do with politics or nothing to do with the GCP funds that you would, you know, some of the concerns raised here today, but it would be some other kind of local law that they violated. But I think if we could have some summary that explains to them, here's what we're referring to, other than I don't know if that would be helpful, if that would be a friendly amendment, Mr. Weiss, to our,
You know, I think I still have a little more time, but I know you did call on.
you can take some, I have 2 minutes left, so you may take
Okay,
my.
I think my question is, do we have, will the city attorney or whoever would get involved in the misuse of these funds, will they have a better case? Will they have better recourse? It's easier for us to prosecute if they've signed something than if they break the law anyway or misuse the funds anyway? Is there a, I mean, I'm trying to understand why we think this is necessary. Like, again, I think everybody that gets these funds needs to understand that they can't use them against any local laws. They can't use them for political purposes. But are we thinking by some signed agreement that it's going to be easier to prosecute them? Is that... or will it be additional penalty if they've signed this? I mean, I'm trying to understand why we think this is important. We need to do this.
Well, Frank Martinez from the City Clerk's Office. First, let me say that the current application now, there's a statement there that's signed that says it will be used for the intended purposes that the money's given. But let me just say, we could certainly work with our office and the city attorney to create an information sheet that would help people through that. I think that could be easily done. I think it's just to provide further clarification and understanding, not that it makes it easier to prosecute or anything of that nature, but just to make sure everybody's on the same page and understands.
And that people would think twice, I think, before, I mean, it's going to question, and we're going to have to read this, and if it says you cannot, you know, use it for these purposes, it in fact explains it, that, you're right, it may not help us in a case in the future, but it at least says, before you do this, you might want to think about it, and ask some questions, just to make sure that you're following local laws or not doing it for political purposes, et cetera. So I don't know if that meets all your concerns, but just to try to make it a little bit more explanatory as a way in which they're looking when they sign that document. Because I do think it is important for people to have confidence in the use of the funds, and also for some of the people who are recipients who may not know, you know, if they're using it for example, as Ms. Hahn mentioned, maybe a teen advocacy day. Maybe it's a teen conference that what they're ultimately going to do is advocate for a particular bill before the state Senate or the U.S. Congress, whatever it may be. Now that might not be legal under this. That may not, we all know under the federal grants, for example, that we can't use some of our funds to be used for advocacy under CDBG, so that people who receive funds from the city cannot use that. They have to use private dollars and their time. So I think an education process will be necessary as well. But I think, you know, obviously I seconded this motion and feel the intent is incredibly important.
Mr. Labange.
Thank you, Mr. President, members. I think there's nothing better for us to be able to do is to help people and help them properly. I think there's nothing better with whatever mechanism that we have legally to help people, to deliver for neighborhoods, whether they're short on a project, whether they're a child care facility and they need to fix it at Franklin and Las Palmas, whether they need a wall at the family daycare center on Griffith Park Boulevard, whether they need a full-service playground at a public school, whether they're a team of academic decathlon competitors who need money to travel to the state championship. These are very important things that we could do to give. And Jack, I don't like the concept that was brought here. And also, members, and I haven't had a chance, I saw Laura Chick at the headquarters luncheon the other day, and I haven't had a chance to sit down and tell her I did not like the term slush fund. I did not like the term slush fund, because this is not what it's about. It's about helping people. It's about helping people. And our districts are very diverse. Our districts are extremely diverse throughout Los Angeles, where there's great needs that we have to help people. How much of this money went to help programs at our police and fire, or after-school programs, or beautification projects? I think that's something that we should have the ability to do. Now, this may not be the time right now, but there will be a time. And now, how do we solve that? How do we solve that? Because I know the concerns that some may have had. Would it be appropriate to have, when we have these requests for funding, that it go to the Neighborhood and Education Committee to have it reviewed? It's already budgeted for, whether it's $20,000 or $100,000 or $200,000. Would it be appropriate if it goes for personnel? Does it go to the Personnel Committee and reviewed on this? I think it's important that those members who believe that we're here to serve people and be able to deliver for people and legally and properly and ethically deliver for them. That's what's so important. And I just want to, and I'm going to publish, and it's a public record, where my money went to. We went to Fairfax High, which is not in my district, went to North Hollywood High, that's not in my district, went to Los Angeles High, across the street from my district, went to Hollywood High, and certainly it went to Marshall High. One program I had is a grant to help the cheerleaders and the athletes and the after-school programs. That's real important for me to be able to try to do. Now, how do I make it easy for them, the administrators of the school, to do that without complicating? So, members, I think this is something that is important, Jack, that we look at. But I think there's a bigger picture that we have to look at and how we deal with this issue. And I'm contemplating that we need more study on this, that it may need to go to a Neighborhood and Education Committee to see what impact it has on how we help people, or whether it goes to government efficiency, if you want to look at it there, because it is real efficient to help people quickly by giving them that short gap of a community organization to build a wall at a child care center where the Building and Safety Department is saying they may have to close them down if they don't raise the $5,000. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Labange. Councilmember Miskowski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, and I think Ms. Hahn was right to question how the communication and the recommendation read. But I also think Ms. Gruhl is right. What this is clarification. I think Mr. Martinez said that we sign those sheets now, and there's a signature by the nonprofit organization that's getting it, anywhere from $500 to $1,000 to relatively small amounts. And I think, as Mr. Martinez said, there should be another line there saying it is understood as we dispense this money, and it is understood as we accept this money, that it will be used lawfully in the City of Los Angeles for what we've expressed. It can't be used for private expenses. It can't be used to discriminate. That's against city law. It can't be used for political purposes to affect a campaign. You can just have a series of things that can be a one line, a couple of clauses that talk about the kind of generally applicable local laws. And no question, these groups are doing good things, but I think as we dispense this, and we've all seen it, it's a one-page sheet with another sentence or two on it. I don't think it's going to be harmful. Helps to elevate the significance of what we're doing, helps to reinforce that this public money is going for a good public purpose, and leave it at that. So I don't think, and in fact, it was the significant issues of the concern at the larger amounts, larger than 5,000, where we might want to give a little bit more to some of these groups. And one of the reasons there's been a hesitancy to do it is because that is elevated to a very significant contractual arrangement where livable wage falls into place, other kinds of, lots of technical pages of city contract stuff. And so we sent that back to the CLA and the city clerk and said, come up with something that might work well for nonprofits to be able to get perhaps a little bit more than the 5,000, but with good city assurances that our basic laws are being followed, and perhaps a little less onerous in terms of some of the other laws that when we do it for a major contractor, in the $1 million of work, that they should comply with our laws. There should be another break and another threshold. So I think there's no harm in this. I think we're trying to do it in a simple manner, straightforward manner, and just a clarification manner. So I ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Ms. Miskowski. Mr. Bernson.
Yeah, when we take our oath of office, we take the responsibility to make sure that we do what is lawful and what's required by the city, whether it's GCP funds or anything else. Now, if we want to grandstand a little bit here, which I suspect may be reaction to some of the comments that have been made about this being a slush fund, in reality, it's not a slush fund. It's the ability to designate funds to each council district so they can be used for things that might not be normally covered in the budget, such as Councilmember Hahn discussed. So, in my opinion, based upon what the budget looks like and what our financial restraints and how we have difficulty in putting police officers on the street, my first indication would be to do away with GCP funds altogether. But I also understand that when you have a tax-exempt corporation or a community organization, when they accept money for a purpose, they state what that purpose is, and they sign what that purpose is. And if they don't do it, if they're a tax-exempt organization, they're committing federal fraud. And if they're a local organization, they're also committing a fraud because they're not using the funds for what it was stated for. So I don't know what this is really necessary for, to be very honest with you. If you want to put out some kind of an advisory to the people and let them know that this has to be used for specifically for the purpose that it's used for, that's fine. But to get involved in a whole rhetoric thing like this, I think my first inclination is just going to be to vote no on it. I would suggest, rather than that maybe it ought to go back to Rules and Committee. I don't know which committee had this before. Budget and Finance, I would suggest that this go back to the Rules Committee and that we devise some kind of a statement that we send out with the check or whatever we're going to do so that they understand what the rules are, so they understand. Okay, well, I'm going to move that it go to that committee, and otherwise I will vote against it.
Thank you very much. Mr. Holden.
This is a strange way of trying to clean up government. And this won't accomplish what it's intended to do. You're saying that these organizations are to use the money for what it's intended, the intent for which it was given. Is that correct?
Yes, they currently fill out an application to that effect.
You see, it's because of politics, and I want to add, Mr. Pacheco, because of dirty politics, that we have this issue before us in the first place, where some politician accused someone else of using the money like this. Now, I would say the LA AIDS Foundation, for an example, they get involved in politics, and yet they get grants from the city. The environmental community, they get grants from the city, yet they get involved in Ms. Grew, they get it, the environmental community, they get involved in politics, and they get grants from the city. At what point do we know that some of their staff people are working in the political campaign on the payroll or not? You don't. But what we do know is this: if you transfer that money to your salary account, that we all have political offices. And your staff, unless they want to be unemployed, is going to be out there working to get you reelected. And that is political. Without a doubt. It's clear on its face, it's political. Now, what we need to do then is get rid of all GCP money and let the CLA and the CAO distribute the money, if that's what you really want to do. That means take it out of the hands of the politician. Because when you give it to a non-profit organization, they vote. I can tell Minority AIDS Foundation, those guys, then the churches, for an example, people endorse people for public office. And you're going to tell me that this is going to make things a lot better. You got another thought coming. Your first aim or your first goal, and it ought to be, when you get elected, you do a good job so that people re-elect you. And if you can hire more staff because you got a slush fund in your salary account, did I say it right? A slush fund in your salary account, then of course you can hire more people on your staff to help you get reelected. Now, to live in a glass house and throw rocks is not very good at all. It doesn't is kind of hypocritical, is that it? And I don't go along with that at all. I understand what they're trying to do, but a slush fund is a slush fund no matter where you hide the money. And we know that politicians will use the money to hire more people to get them, ensure their reelection, or to some other office. Now, I would say that it's already against the law for a nonprofit to use the money that we give them, those grants, for political purposes. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Then what are we saying? Restating what the law already says?
Well, again, I think the intent was to provide further information and clarification, but current
Okay, I don't mind
application
that. I go along
already
with that.
includes
For
that.
clarification, and you want to reiterate what is the law, that's fine, but to throw
I can ask you to conclude, Mr.
at some of
Holden.
my colleagues, I don't like that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Holden. Mr. Reyes.
Thank you, council colleagues. My political mind says I shouldn't even engage in this discussion. But to be quite honest with you, when I look at accusations from the controller, who was a former council member, saying we're using slush funds, for me it's outrageous. When I don't see the former controller going into my neighborhood, when the kids are trying to buy soccer balls, when the seniors are trying to find a way to get that extra meal. I can go through my list here, Controller, and I can show you how I use my money. It's not a slush fund. But I can also share with you the poverty in my district is nowhere near what you could even fathom when you look at how we use our resources. And I applaud Councilmember Weiss. He wants to clean up government. He wants to do that. I believe that. I think it's a good intention and he has a noble heart. But how do I tell the nonprofit who doesn't speak English, who doesn't understand that all these documents he might think is going to put him in jail, will it take him to the point where he's willing to even ask for the resources to help his children who are trying to deal with that recreation center? Is he going to do that? And who pays? It's not going to be us, it's going to be those kids who will not have an option, will not have that program, will not have that service, because we're accused of using slush funds. See, that one has me really bothered. Council colleagues, unless we decide that we are truly going to help the folks who need this money, we should set aside monies for technical assistance to show people who do not speak English, do not understand the laws, how this is going to help them. Are we going to allow for that? Where's that money going to come from? Now, who's going to interpret that as being a political inside job to help out that politician? Meantime, what does the kid do? He gets succumbed into this gang violence. He looks to what his idle mind will let him do. And you know what happens with idle minds? Isn't that the fight against crime? So what are we really doing here, folks? Are we really cleaning up government? Can we just go with what we have and let our integrity speak for itself and let a former council member who's using the media as a city controller to accuse us of slush funds? That is wrong.
Thank you very much, Mr. Reyes. Ms. Perry.
Thanks very much, Mr. Chair. And I want to tell you that I agree with Mr. Reyes, and it's very frustrating to sit here as a council person serving the districts that we serve, to listen to things that don't have any basis in reality for council districts like ours, the 8th, 9th, 10th, and the 1st, the 14th. You know, maybe people just exist in a different reality. I know I feel like I'm having deja vu right now when I sat here and listened to the campaign reform package, and we argued for hours about IEs, and you know, this is the reality of what we have to face. These GCP monies, you know, maybe we need to tighten up the process to make sure that our community groups that are fledgling, that are starting out, you know, understand that they have to respond, understand that they need to fill out paperwork, and they may need some help filling out the paperwork in a timely way. My biggest problem is not spending GCP money where it is intended to be spent on community community groups to benefit the community. And if you look at the spreadsheet that was in the LA Times, I think you can see that. My biggest problem is some community groups just have a difficulty in understanding the city process. Some of it may be language, some of it may be inexperience, and so they need help understanding the process so that they can avail themselves of this money. $500 means a great deal to a place such as a nonprofit after-school program like a place called Home, or to El Santo Nino. That can buy a lot of things, not only trips, it can buy books, it can buy school uniforms. I got money for school uniforms for kids who live in an area where they don't have any rich benefactors over there. They needed a uniform because they're in areas infested with gangs, and they needed to wear a uniform so they could walk to school. Those are the kinds of things that I use the money for, not for my political expediency. Quite frankly, I don't have the time to even worry about that.
Thank you very much, Ms. Perry. Mr. Zine.
Thank you, Mr. President and colleagues. GCP, I know that the dollars that I have used in my communities have gone for legitimate purposes. There's a process. Paperwork has to be completed. It's checked. Sometimes the paperwork's kicked back because they're not a 501c3 or whatever. I know there's, to my satisfaction, a checks and balance. When you look at the purpose, whether it be District 1 or District 3, I have impoverished areas in the southwest San Fernando Valley, as some of these other districts, and I see a map that was passed out of the city, persons living in poverty, 2,000, and there's a number of areas that have over 33% of the people living in poverty. So I think GCP funds have a legitimate purpose, and I know they've been cut from the budget, but I believe that if it's a GCP fund for community programs, then it needs to be earmarked for that purpose and not to be spun over into something else, spun over into what currently happens, salary accounts, spun over into the discretion of the council member. And I believe that if you have an allocation of funds for community enhancement, for community improvement, then maintain that in that account and not have the discretion that we currently have to spin it over into something else, whether it be hiring additional staff or whatever. GCP is supposed to be used for community improvement, some type of program. And I've funded after-school programs with dollars. I've funded community organizations. And I found that some of the organizations don't qualify. So what I set up in my office is a $25,000 account that I use out of my personal salary to use for those organizations. And to date, those organizations appreciate that, because not all organizations can qualify for GCP. But if we say it's for a community group, if we say it's for community enhancement, it troubles me that we can then spin it over, whatever is remaining. I think it should remain in there for that purpose, and it can't be used for any other purpose, because when you spin it over, then it creates a cloud. It creates the controversy. It creates the buzzwords as a slush fund. So I would be in favor of maintaining it for that purpose that it's designed and no other purpose, to clean it up. And I think that the current system, as we've seen reported in the paper, there's a lot of questions as to what happens with it and how long does it linger and how much staff can you hire. But when you talk about politics, we're all politicians, we're all elected to serve a purpose. And if I give it to an after-school program, they're obviously going to appreciate that I'm giving it to them. Does that help me with the community? Yes, it helps me with the community. Does it help when there's a photo shoot with that group? Yes, it does. Did that garner votes? It may garner votes, it may not garner votes. But the purpose is to help the communities that are in need, whether it be in the central city or the San Fernando Valley. And I would say, just to make sure that it's perfectly clear, to have it allocated for that and for no other purpose, that creates a legitimacy that I think we need for the GCP fund, so we can get away from the rhetoric of calling it a slush fund to be used at different discretions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Zine. Mr. Weiss.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I want to say to Ms. Perry and Mr. Reyes that I listened to exactly what you said, and I appreciated what you said. And I want to say especially to Mr. Reyes, I appreciate your remarks in all respects. And I hope folks understand, I mean, this is a debate which this morning seems to have gotten away from us a little bit. Because let's all remember the facts that are on the table right now. The budget proposal, which this council gave tentative approval to the other day for 0304, does not include the $250,000 GCP allocation that the current year's budget does. Let me say that again. The budget proposal that the council has given its tentative approval to does not include that $250,000 GCP allocation. So all we're talking about now are some reforms, which frankly are modest, to the already existing GCP dollars from prior year allocations. That's all we're essentially talking about. And we're talking about two very modest reforms. One, a certification that the public dollars will not be used for political purposes. Well, it's not proper to use public dollars for political purposes. So people should attest to that. And secondly, to have an annual report from each council office that folks have made clear they already do, or many folks already do, so that the public knows where the money has gone to. What I've heard from this discussion has been other concerns about these GCP dollars, other ideas for reforming the process, other ideas, whether it's a committee or a particular use or whatever, and those are all valid topics for discussion. And I would say to my colleagues, sit down with one another and draft a motion to provide for that further reform if you believe further reform is needed. It may very well be that those motions would be well taken as well. But all that is before the council today is a very narrow requirement that the recipient and the council members certify that the funds will not be used for political purposes and that the council member will make an annual disclosure. Given all that has been said in the press and in the public about these funds in the last few weeks, that is truly the least we can do.
Thank you, Mr. Reyes.
Yes, I'd like to ask the folks at the table, the motion before us, the notion of to attest to your responsibilities. Do the existing forms do that?
The existing forms, Karen, you can have the exact language, but basically they attest that the funds will be used for the intended purposes.
So our existing forms already do that?
And there's a certification by the council member that the funds are used for the intended purpose.
So we are meeting that threshold in which I believe my colleague is trying to achieve.
I believe what's before you is to add something that the agency also makes a similar type of certification.
Okay, so it could be as basic as a letter saying I will use the monies according to the application.
Or similar statement on a form that they sign.
So it could be a one-pager.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's correct.
I'm trying to look at simplicity here. I'm trying to look at things that do not intimidate the people who are already intimidated by government. And those are the people who need this the most. And I have to say that because in our respective districts, the ones that were mentioned by Councilmember Perry, we have an international setting that comes with a whole set of layers of issues and challenges and barriers. I don't need more legal forms. If it's just a page, I have no problem with that. I don't want to give the controller a reason to start looking up and down my files because I said what I said. But the bottom line, let's be very clear why we're doing this. I did speak to the Chief of Staff of the Mayor's Office, McCosker, and I asked him, would he have a problem if we did it to all GCP, as well as with the Mayor's Office? Is there a problem with that?
Well, across the board, we treat GCP the same. If it's under 5,000, it's a one-page application process, very simple. If it's over 5,000, it's a contract. And we do that with all the GCP nonprofit organizations that we fund.
So these recommended changes will apply to both the Mayor's Office and our offices?
They would be applied the same way. I think this refers mostly to those allocations that are under $5,000. If it's greater than that and there's a contract involved, then there's another set of requirements that I think gets at this as well.
Well, it seems that this slush fund accusation was focused on the council. I would like for us to understand that there's more than just the council who uses GCP, and if we all should be at the same standard, that's all I'm saying.
Right. And most of the, I believe all of the mayor included GCP items are over 5,000, so they all get a contract.
Correct.
Okay, again, council, I think the intent is a noble one, but I really believe there's a strong disconnect as to what's happening when you live in the neighborhoods that we're trying to support. We're trying to achieve a quality of life for everybody at a level we can all be in a place where we can enjoy our families and our kids. And it is not like that. And so these kinds of assertions need to be thought out carefully, and I think it is a discussion that has to happen. And we need to be aware of those idiosyncrasies that make it complicated.
I might add, if we're directed to do this, obviously we would work to make it as simple and as clean as possible and not unduly burden our organizations with a lot of legal rhetoric. We try to make it as simple as possible, keep the forms as simple as we possibly can.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Mr. Labange.
There's an aspect, I like to tell people what I'm doing. And when I'm doing good things, I like to tell them in the community. Janice knows that, so that's good. So, but the things that we do, it's very important. Very important. And if there was some, you talked about an annual report, correct? On this here? I think a quarterly report, and I also want to say it's going to the Rules Committee, maybe? I think I wanted to go to the Neighborhood Committee, too, if I could get a second, because I want Rules to look at it, and I want Neighborhood to look at it, and instead of an annual report, I want a quarterly report. So I want everybody to put the light of day on what good we do, whatever we have, and the ability to help people with any type of funds from this city to the community. So those are two aspects there that I want to support the rules. I do want to, and I want to top you on the annual to do it quarterly, Jack. I think we should do it quarterly, okay? But I'm concerned about the one aspect that may be an override, if I could call it that. So that's it. I got a second for the Neighborhood Committee, and I seconded for Mr. Burton. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Labange.
I might, just for a point of information, we do issue a monthly report to every council office that lists all the allocations.
I want it in committee. I want it in committee, in the light of day.
So I'm just saying that the information is readily available if you want to go quarterly.
I understand that, but I want it in committee, because then people will not criticize us or say some things that it's not. It's here to help the people of the district.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Hahn.
That's a good point. I mean, I think that's what I'm trying to understand by this motion. It sounds like we're already getting, we already have, when these nonprofit organizations accept the money, they accept it, understanding that they have to comply with all laws and they have to not use it for political reasons. Sounds like we already have that. I am in favor of maybe coming up with a little more detailed, clarified statement. I think that's what maybe Rules and my committee could look at. And on the annual reporting, I mean, I agree. I mean, we need full disclosure, but I think we need full disclosure not only of GCP funds to non-governmental recipients. I think the public would want to know if we do use it for salaries and, we use it for consultants. I mean, those are kinds of things I think the public probably has more problem with than nonprofit organizations, that GCP money, and then actually the council members should be signing those forms that we are agreeing that we're not using it for political reasons. I mean, I think full disclosure means all GCP money, where does that money go? What does it buy? Who does it hire? So I think it should be, we ought to have a full disclosure where all that dollars go to. And ultimately, I think one of the things we need to reform is that at the end of the fiscal year, the unused GCP money automatically salary rolls into our salary accounts. And only, isn't that true? And then only after the next fiscal year starts can we then transfer it back. But it seems to me if there's a GCP account, it should stay in the GCP account unless we authorize it to go into the salary accounts. I don't think it should be an automatic rollover to our salary accounts.
Currently, it isn't automatic. There would have to be an action taken to do that.
That's not my understanding. That I thought at the end of the year, if we hadn't used it, it automatically went into the office account. That's what okay. That's what I've always. That's what happened last year. Do we have a clarification?
No, there's actually there would have to be an action taken to move it to the salary accounts and then. Right?
I think.
There's an action that's taken. There's an action taken by the council which transfers the money to the office. Yes. So there needs to be an action by the council. It doesn't happen automatically.
Okay. All right. I don't remember seeing that motion like that, but I'll keep my eyes on it for this year. But again, that's my two comments. I think we already have what we need, colleagues. I'm in favor of if we want to have a little stronger statement that we send out with the checks. But I think the only thing that A does is, give one more a heavy, in my opinion, it's heavy-handed. It seems to me that nonprofits will have to have lawyers look at it before they sign it. And again, the agencies I'm working with, I think it makes me nervous that the only thing this could be used for in the future is that they would be prosecuted for perjury, as opposed to just going askew of the laws. So I'm not comfortable with this.
Thank you very much. Mr. Pacheco.
I was simply going to move that we approve only the portion that says post on your website, and the rest should go to committee rules. And which committee, Mr. Burnson? Rules and Elections, yeah. Just approve it, post on the website. I think people will be glad to know who you're helping in the neighborhoods. And that will bring transparency, and that will allow anyone to track and follow the work of the good work that each council member is doing in their neighborhoods, and then just send the rest to committee. That's,
Is there a second to that?
Can you restate what the motion is?
Yes, Mr. Pacheco moved that only the portion adopted be recommendation number 3, that would request all council officers to post to their websites the amounts to which agencies the money was given from their council office, and then that the rest be sent to committee, Rules and Elections.
Was there a second for that?
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Burnson seconds. Okay. Mr. Holden.
President, members, what they always say, if it's not broke, don't fix it. And you're beginning to fix too many things around here, and then next year you're going to discover that what you fix is really broken and be in disrepair. After I left the budget meeting the other day, one colleague who's leaving the council put a motion in to amend the budget to say that you should not buy a car for in excess of $25,000. Everybody will clean up government now. And I looked on TV last night, and the economy car, $33,000. I think we're going a little mad around here because you imposing constraints on the way you can operate, and you cannot operate with those constraints being imposed. Now, if you're going to put this on the website, Mr. Pacheco, if you're going to say put this on the website, the problem that's going to be generated as a result of that is that individuals and organizations will look on the website and say, oh, they got some money, oh, they got some support, and for cause, and I didn't get any. And my organization is in need also. And there's no reason to hide it. I'm not trying to say that. But for each of you who are going to be left, you have to have some explaining to do. Well, I give it to you this year, next year the other organization gets it next year, and so on. And instead of giving you $5,000, what you need, I have to give you $500, and you spread it out 1,000 different ways. Not my problem. I'm just pointing out the fact, the kind of problem that you're going to have, that you be generated from this type of discussion, and certainly should you implement this at all. But it's going to committee. Mr. Pacheco, I think the whole thing should go to committee, not just a small portion of it. So I would have to vote against dividing the question and sending a portion of it to the committee and voting to approve a portion of it. So I would say the whole matter should go to committee. Think it out very carefully before you cut this ribbon. That's what I think. And so that, Mr. President, I'm going to sit down and Mr. Pacheco, you understand why I'm voting against your motion, because I want the whole thing to go to committee.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Burnson.
Move the previous question on the entire matter.
Okay, colleagues, the question has been moved. There's no objection. All right. We'll close debate. We now have the item before us. Madam Clerk, if you can restate what we have.
The first motion before council is Mr. Pacheco's recommendation to adopt the recommendation number 3 and send the balance to Rules Elections IGR Committee.
Okay.
Adopt the report.
We've closed debate on this. Mr. Weiss, are you making a formal motion? Mr. Weiss moves to separate those questions. Is there a second for that? Okay, if there's no objection, then we will separate the question. Mr. Labange, point of information?
Madam Clerk, my suggestion is to go to a Rules Committee, but also then to go refer to Neighborhoods Committee. Where is that? I just need to know where that is.
That's the motion that was, that would be the following motion, because there was a motion to send the entire matter to both committees.
Thank you so much. I just wanted a clarification. Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes,
I
Mr.
accept the
Burnson.
Neighborhood Committee as a friendly amendment to the Rules Committee.
Okay. So when we get to that, if we get to that, we will consider that friendly. If we can please take the first part of the separated question.
Okay, the first vote then would be to adopt recommendation number 3.
Okay. Colleagues, this is recommendation number 3 about posting on the website. If you can please open the roll, Madam Clerk, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes, 3 noes.
Okay, that is approved. The balance of the...
And the balance would be to send the balance of the recommendations to both Rules Elections IGR and Education Neighborhoods, and that would include Ms. Gruhl's friendly amendment.
Can you specify?
The summary sheet, an information sheet to be included.
Okay, colleagues, this is to send the rest of the matter with the suggestion from Ms. Gruhl to committee for further deliberation. Please open the... Would you like to clarify, Ms. Gruhl?
I think that's important to do, to add that item in the report. However, I think it could also be added in the current report that's before us, is all I'm saying. So it's probably,
Okay.
it is an amendment for both.
Okay. We should clarify whether we can vote on it both ways. If that's accepted as a...
I think we
Ms.
can
Mizikowski?
if the committee accepts Ms. Gruhl's amendment to the base report, then it's in there, and now we can just vote yes or
Let's
no
do
to
that.
send that to committee.
Okay. So if we can please open the roll on sending it to committee, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes, 3 noes.
Okay, that is approved as well, sent to committee. If the neighborhood committee as well. If we can take item 43 out of order, Ms. Perry has asked for that to be the next item. If there's no objection, colleagues, we'll take item 43.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I have a substitute report that will supersede the report that's on file now from the Planning Land Use Management Committee. It is called the amended report, and we've done some revisions that will lead to a project that will be more in keeping with the character of the already established residential and now established academic community in this area around the Southern California Institute of Architecture. And after extensive discussion and negotiation, all parties are now in agreement. So I would like
Has that been distributed to the council members?
Let's see, I have a copy of it, of the amended report.
Okay.
I'm not sure where if the planning department should be distributing it or...
Okay. Has that been distributed, do we know, Madam Clerk? We have no record of that so far. Okay. Would you like us to hold on the table?
Yeah, why don't you hold on the table and let
Okay.
me find...
I believe it's in the process of being distributed.
Okay.
It's in the process of being distributed.
All righty. Anything else you'd like to tell us about it while we're waiting for it to be distributed?
We have the farmers market on Saturday on Central Avenue.
Great.
The Dunbar Hotel starting at 9 a.m.
Do you know what some of the
every
fruits and vegetables might be at the farmer's market?
Strawberries, fresh bread, desserts. It's great.
Wonderful.
Yes. So please come on down every Saturday morning.
Every Saturday?
That's right.
Okay.
Plenty of parking.
Well, with all that parking, all that fruit and vegetables, this should be an easy item.
Yes.
And I believe we've had it distributed now?
It's in the process, I believe.
Okay. Here we go.
And again, this is the amended report.
Like a bushel of fresh grains, it's being passed along. There we go.
It says amended at the top. Yeah.
If there's no objection, I think as it's being circulated, why don't we, it's been shown to the clerk, why don't we vote on the matter, and if anybody'd like to reconsider it afterwards, we can do that. If we can open the roll on the item, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
That item is approved. If we can go back to the rest of the order of the agenda.
The next matter on the agenda, Mr. President, item number 4, called special by Councilmember Reyes.
Mr. Reyes.
Thank you, Council President. Colleagues, on your desk, you're going to find a demographic map that'll give you a pretty clear indicator of where the poverty areas are at. The reason why I bring this up, first I want to commend the Mayor's Office for putting together a report like this, an RFP that is addressing the issues that it is addressing. But I just want to bring to mind and share with you that back in the early 90s, Councilman Lee Thomas put together these principles of economic development. From there, we moved resources, working with Councilman Hernandez, and talked about how we look at leveraging federal funds with city funds, with state funds, and different programs. And the question always became, where are the jobs? And for me, when you look at this study, and you look at the preliminary report, some key concepts come to mind is how we're addressing the digital divide. I see most of my colleagues are not even looking at the map, but hopefully you take to heart what I'm trying to share with you. One is that I think we need to strengthen the reporting mechanisms to the various council committees who have a role in how we influence our economy. I look at the CED committee, I look at Housing Committee, look at Plum Committee. All these committees have the capacity to support some of the findings in these reports. I would like for us to figure out how we connect these committees to reinforce some of the ordinances that can actually generate jobs. We can study this place to death. The truth of the matter is, these poverty areas continue to grow. All these dark green areas were not as prevalent as they are today. It continues to spread. So how are we going to connect the dots when we start looking at your discretion as chairpersons in the various levels of resources that you have, especially when you're looking at the economic engines? How are the commissioners from the Department of Water and Power, the commissioners from the airport, the commissioners from the harbor connect to the study? How do we, as chairpersons of these committees, reinforce these findings so that we are truly creating jobs? This summer is going to be a hot summer. It's going to be hot because we do not have options for our young people for jobs. When you look at the budget cuts and you look at what's being sawed off, not because we want to, but because we have to, where are our options? Where is the result for our ability to give these young people, seniors, middle-aged people who are retrained or trying to get retrained because their manufacturing base is eroding? Where are they going to go? So again, colleagues, I like to provide a friendly amendment, a verbal one, in which we state that we have a report back to respective committees, CED, Housing Department, and Plum, and talk about how these different reports, or this report, is going to connect with our policies. Where are our leveraging opportunities? And I'd love to hear the commissioners from Department of Water and Power, the airport, and the harbor give us a report to see how they are going to help create jobs, given the findings of this report. We need to look at this comprehensively. Can you come to the table, please? We need to look at this comprehensively so that we learn from the unions and what they're doing, how the hiring practices affect our ability to generate jobs. We look at the manufacturers who have a need to work with us, if they're even looking for loans, if they're looking for fee waivers. Where's the reciprocation? How are the jobs happening in South Los Angeles, in East LA, in Wilmington? Let's look at the poverty-stricken areas and let's draw those connections. Let's not look at LA as a blur. It's not a basin full of smog. It is a place that has real people, that has real needs, and there are priorities based on that need. Can you answer some of those thoughts, please? Give us your insight.
Absolutely, Mr. Reyes. I think one of the goals of the study is to prepare, to give all policymakers in the city from different committees of the City Council and different commissions the tools that they need to make decisions that will help to reverse the job losses we've seen. In the 8 years following the 1992 riots, every area of the city lost jobs. In South LA, we lost 37% of our total jobs. East LA was second hardest hit. And this study is to really look at the dramatic changes that have been happening in the city as a whole, as well as in the different areas within the city, to help policymakers have the tools to think about how to reverse those trends.
How could the commissioners of our respective economic engines that are part of the family city of LA, how do you foresee them connecting with us, given our work in committee, to create these jobs? Has there been any thought given to that?
Yeah, well, to the extent that the different commissions are responsible for economic development, LADWP has a large role in that, and we will be connecting with DWP and their staff and commission from the very beginning to make sure that they're incorporated and develop the strategies along with us. And DWP in particular will be central to the job creation strategies.
Okay, so you have the harbor that has an economic engine. Where is the role of the unions? Where is the role of the poverty-stricken areas? Where are the links to those people who need jobs? I mean, that is a critical question in my mind. Where's the role of the airport? Their role with the unions and the local needs in that area. If it's not there in terms of the poverty-stricken conditions, where are the links to South Los Angeles? And where are the links to the poverty-stricken areas around Venice, around Rockwood neighborhoods? I mean, again, we're talking about Palmdale, we're talking about the other places in which we own property. What are the connections here? I mean, this is something we need to leverage, and I'd like to have that spelled out. I'd like to hear the commissioners come to this body and tell us, this is the connection. And I applaud DWP for taking this on, but let's do it right. We always do this on a piecemeal basis, and we tend to be missing each other. We're like big ships in the dark here, and we're not on the same path.
Reyes, let me ask you, after this push button, if we have other members wishing to be heard.
Councilman Robert Science, Assistant General Manager, CDD. One of the critical, and you identified one of the most critical aspects of this study is being able to link it back to the communities. And that's one of the reasons the Workforce Investment Board is invested in this project. We wanted to connect our training dollars, our economic development activity that's happening with the Community Development Department, link it to all the other economic activities that's happening throughout the city. We operate 23 workforce centers around the city and being able to build them into it so they're training people for the jobs, for the right jobs, and they're outreaching to the communities that are out there.
I have more questions, but I know there's other people on the queue.
Mr. Parks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I just want to ask,
Nos quiero pedir la pregunta viendo la criteria para el RFP.
the one thing I'm concerned about, I think it's kind of ironic that we have a study about economic development in the city, but it doesn't appear in the criteria we give any consideration for local businesses being given a top consideration so that we're spending city money with city businesses that are going to study the economic development of the city. And so I would hope that as part of the criteria, local businesses would be given some consideration. The other thing I'm concerned about, and I've noticed this on a number of contracts and a variety of things, we list the minority females in small business, but often there is contractors and subcontractors, and we do not seem to give the same consideration of whether the prime has the minority women or issues as part of their larger organization. And I would just ask that as you go forward with the RFP, that we look at the minority women issue for the prime and not just be content to allow subcontractors to absorb that or to be in that, carry that responsibility. But we, in my judgment, if we do not have something specifically labeled for local businesses, we are missing the whole point of the economic development, that we're not paying people in the city with city money, which is the whole essence of economic development.
We would definitely work with the city attorney to strengthen that language.
One thing we might point out is that as far as the primes go for this study, the types of organizations that would likely be bidding on this would be sort of national universities or nonprofit think tanks. And there's probably a pretty limited handful of people who will be coming in as the primes, but as far as the subcontractors and other types of supporting roles, whether it's for printing or community relations or those kinds of things, I think there will be opportunities, certainly, and we'll look forward to maximizing those opportunities.
I agree, but I think if we're evaluating primes and one has minority and women as part of the prime, as we look at the evaluation, I hope we can see that more favorably.
Consideramos eso más que de los que no tienen eso y luego vamos a los subcontratistas para que llenen eso. Y la otra cuestión es el gobierno local. Si nosotros tenemos gentes con talento igual, no estamos dando nuestro dinero localmente, no estamos estudiando desarrollo económico, parece que perdimos conexión importante. Muchas gracias. Señora Macasco.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Señor
Mr. Reyes,
presidente,
thank
señor
you
Reyes,
for
muy
calling
gracias por llamar a
Thank you
este
for
especial, gracias
distributing
por
this
distribuir
map.
este mapa.
I remember
Yo
the
recuerdo
former
la
councilor from CD1,
concejala
Mr.
anterior del
Hernandez,
señor
used to
Hernández
distribute
usaba
this all the
distribuir
time
esto
to
todo el
talk
tiempo para
about
hablar
what has now
lo
been
que
talked
ahora
about
se ha
in terms
hablado
of
en
the tale of two
términos de
cities
cola de dos
and
ciudades.
the persons living in
Y la
poverty in the
gente
city.
viviendo en la pobreza en la
And
ciudad.
you're right, we should
Esto
become
también debemos
alarmed that not only do we
alarmarnos que
have
no
these
más
maps,
tenemos
but as
esos
we compare
mapas,
these
pero
maps,
comparamos
it's
esos
growing.
mapas, está
And
creciendo.
these areas are growing,
Estas están
larger
creciendo
areas
más,
growing darker in color,
más
meaning more
oscuras el
people
lugar,
are
más
growing
gente está
as living
creciendo,
in poverty in the
viviendo en
city.
pobreza en la ciudad.
I support this
Yo
effort, I
soporto este
support
esfuerzo, yo
what is going
soporto
on,
lo
I
que
want
está
to commend the
pasando.
mayor's
Quiero
office.
aumentar a la oficina del
Members,
alcalde.
I'd like
Miembros, me
you
gustaría
to
que
listen to this. This
oigan
is a
esto, es un
report, the LA
reporte
Economy Project that was put out by the
que salió del
mayor.
alcalde.
It says that the
Dice
city has
que la ciudad
experienced
se premia
widespread
de
job losses in the
pérdidas
last
de
10
trabajo
years.
en los últimos
It
10
compares
años.
the city
Compara
to
la
the
ciudad
county,
al condado,
to the state, and
el
the
estado
nation.
y la
It
nación.
says between 1990
Desde
and the year
1990 al año
2001, the
2001,
rest of
el
California
resto de
and the United
California y los
States
Estados
had
Unidos
increases of
habían
27
aumentado
and
de
21%
27 y
respectively
21
of wage
respectivamente
and salary
de
job growth.
salarios.
Well, LA
Ahora
County
el condado
actually
de Los
saw a
Ángeles
slight
vio
decline in
una
wage and salary
declinación de
employment during this
emergencias por
time.
los últimos
Listen to this
tiempos.
next
Oigan
comment
este
that is
próximo
in this
comentario que está
report,
en
the
este
LA
reporte,
Economy
el
Project.
proyecto de economía.
These trends,
Estos
if left unchecked,
vendas que no se cambian
portend
pueden
increasing city
aumentar
budget deficits into
presupuestos
the future,
déficits en el futuro,
driven by increasing
manejados
demand
por
for
aumentos por
services and
servicios
coupled with declining tax revenues.
ganancias por ganancias.
This came from the
Esto
mayor's
vino de la
office
oficina del alcalde
this last
el último.
month, during
Este
the
mes
month of
pasado,
May.
el más
These
no,
trends,
estos
if left
no se
unchecked,
cambian,
portend increasing
pueden
city
aumentar
budget deficits into the future.
déficits
That's
presupuesto
exactly what we've been
exacto
talking
lo que
about
estado
for the last
hablando por
couple of
los
weeks
últimos par de
and
semanas
wanting
y queriendo
that awareness made
que se
clear.
dé cuenta de
This
eso.
is from
Esto de
the, as I said, the mayor's
como
office,
dijo
the
la
LA
oficina del
Economy
alcalde económico
Project.
por
And I
eso.
just want to repeat
Además
that for
quiero repetir
everyone.
eso para
These
todos.
trends, if
Estos
left
trends no
unchecked,
se
portend
cambian,
increasing
pueden
city
aumentar
budget deficits into the
déficits
future.
de presupuesto en el futuro.
That's what we're facing.
Es lo que
I think
estamos
this project,
encarando,
at
esto
least
que
on
se
this
ve por lo
scope, and
menos en
as
este
enhanced by
scope, y como
Mr.
se
Reyes
notó el
about
señor
where
Reyes,
we
de
need
dónde
to really
necesitamos de
pull the
veras
city teams together
equipos de
to
la
make
ciudad juntos
sure
para estar
that
seguros
this downward
de que
spiral
esto
projected here, potentially projected here, projected by our CAO,
Caracol,
projected by the
proyecto por el
CAO, it's becoming more and more real. We have to do something. We have to be prudent on one hand with our budget money. We have to be incentivizing and using every skill, every administrative level of those economic engines in the city to reverse this trend, because we are going at a trend differently from the state and differently from the country. And if that continues to grow, we are going to be facing, and future city council members and future administrations, very, very serious and dire consequences. And this is a good moment to recognize it, acknowledge it, and try to use those incentives that are in this report to deal with it. So I thank you for bringing this to our attention.
Perry.
Thanks very much, Mr. President, and I also wanted to rise to add some commentary about this project and the report itself. I know I've had a number of conversations with Deputy Mayor Chen and about the microeconomic climate within our respective council districts and the challenges that I think, again, my friends on either side and across the way face in attempting to bring some meaning and reality to actually getting jobs for people who are unemployed, facing the issue of literacy square on, not just bilingual issues, but people who actually just can't read. And what that translates into inability to fill out a job application, lack of confidence, inability to be able to figure out how to even know where to go to find a job. So I'm suggesting that maybe as you progress and begin to gather information, that we refine it and as part of an ongoing process to make sure that it's actually going to work for us, so that this can ultimately lead to something that's reality-based and can be successful in helping us to be able to get more people employed, not just trained, but actually get them jobs.
Thank you, Ms. Perry. That's, very well put. And this question of literacy will be very central to the study. And it's central to the future of the LA economy. In fact, LA has now the highest proportion of low-educated adults of any major metro in the U.S. 1 in 10 adults lacks a sixth-grade education, and 1 in 4 lacks a high school diploma, as you very well know, Ms. Perry. And no economic analysis can be complete without a real clear understanding of the skill sets of our own residents.
Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think these are great questions and great directions from the council today. Critically, if you look at the city and you look at that widening gap between the haves and the have-nots, that's exactly why we need to be doing this. I rise in full support. We had a good debate about this in committee. Mr. Pacheco raised some of these issues as well. And I think as much as we can really focus our economic growth plan on attacking poverty, it's something that doesn't just help those that are poor. It will change the social fabric of the city. It will change some of the most glaring problems that we have. And that's why I really see this as something critical for us to do. We've done this during the budget planning process, which is to try to step back and be strategic. The mayor's office has this initiative to try to do the same thing with our entire economy here. And if we can't look at what industries we want to attract, begin to act strategically, we already have so many things working against us, from 88 cities in this county trying to coordinate economic policy, which is so difficult. Transportation policy, if you take that out to the 5-county region, it becomes an unmanageable mess. But a well-written, well-researched document, like what United Way does each year to point out that gap, is something that will really push the envelope forward, not just for the city, but hopefully a blueprint for the entire region. So I hope that everybody today can rise in support of this. The suggestions that you've made, I think are things that can be folded in and will be folded in. And we had similar questions and inclinations in committee, but let's move this forward today. Let's make sure that we start doing that planning, and let's make sure that we do it in a way that really focuses on those that are the worst off. And we only do that by really taking the global look at the economy. That's something that we, as we work and we pilot in our individual neighborhoods and our individual projects, if nobody's looking at the larger picture, then we're all kind of spinning into the wind. So I urge your support.
Mr. Reyes.
I rise to
Yo
support
levanto en
this
soporte de este reporte.
but I want to be very clear
Quiero
what
estar
we
muy
can
claro
do
de lo que
now.
podemos hacer ahora.
I understand the trends,
Yo
I
entiendo
understand the
el
big
trend,
picture.
yo veo el
Let's understand our environment. I-
represento nuestro medio
very
ambiente y
obvious
no es
for
muy
me
obvio para mí
to appreciate
para
that.
apreciar eso.
But right now,
Pero ahorita
we're contemplating
estamos
400 new
contemplando
jobs for
400 nuevos trabajos
LAPD.
para el departamento de policía.
What are we doing to make
¿Qué es lo
sure
que
they're
estamos haciendo
local
para
hires?
asegurar que están contratando locales?
Is there anything in writing
¿Hay
that
algo
says
en
there
el
should
escrito
be
que deben de
local
ser
hires or they should be
contratos
prioritized?
locales y
The Public Works motion I put forward and hiring young people. Where is that?
¿Dónde está eso?
I'd like for us to see a
Gustaría que
calendar.
nosotros vemos un
When
calendario
commissioners
cuando
come
los
here
comisarios
and
vienen
tell
aquí y nos
us
dicen a
how their
nosotros cómo es que
decisions
sus decisiones,
had a clear
que muy
impact
claro,
on
un impacto
and hire local people.
gente local.
We should have that as part
Debemos
of the
de tener
schedule
eso
of this
como
report.
parte de este
We should
reporte,
have a
debemos de
list of
tener una lista
various
de varios
motions,
mociones,
policies,
pólizas,
any kind
cualquier
of
clase
written
de
directive
escrito
that
directivo
speaks to
que
creation of
habla de
jobs
creación de
that
trabajos,
has a
que
link to
tenga
this report.
encadenamiento con este
We need
reporte.
to
Necesitamos
coordinate our
coordinar
efforts.
nuestros
That's why I think the
esfuerzos, por eso
CED
es que
committee,
el
the Housing Committee,
CED
and Plum Committee are critical.
comités son
If I
críticos,
want to
por
be
eso voy a
moving
estar
towards a
moviendo para la
direction to
dirección
stimulate
para estimular
mixed-use environments, where does the residential, commercial, residential manufacturing, where does it work? Where is that reality?
¿Dónde está
And
realidad?
how do we
¿Y cómo es que
prioritize
nos
these dark
prioritamos
areas
estas áreas
that are
oscuras que
poverty-stricken?
sean por escrito?
I like to see a
Me
schedule.
gustaría
I'd like
ver
to see the
un horario,
commissioners
me
come
gustaría
back and tell us
comisiones que
that.
vengan a decirnos eso.
And for me,
Y para mí,
when I see the appointments of the
cuando veo las
commissioners
cuentas
and
de
I
las
look at the
comisiones y
makeup of the
veo
commissioners, who do they
¿a
represent?
quién representan?
Do they come from the areas that are
¿Vienen de las áreas que
poverty-stricken?
están en pobreza?
Or do they come from the
¿O vienen
areas
de las áreas
that
que
don't understand
no
these
entienden
issues?
estas cuestiones?
There's a direct link
Hay
to
una,
how we are
o sea, es
setting
como es que estamos
policy
poniendo
in
las
our economic
políticas
engines. And that should
Aquí
be
es-
something
y
very
es algo
clear
que está muy
to
claro
us.
para nosotros.
And we have to be working
Tenemos que
hand in
estar
hand
trabajando
with
mano
the
a mano con
unions,
las uniones,
hand in hand with the
mano a mano con
developers,
los
hand in hand with the financiers,
con los
so
financieros,
that we are
para que
making this
nosotros estamos
process
haciendo este proceso
actually
en sí,
translate into jobs.
siendo
So
trabajos.
we are one of the biggest local engines. We're going to hire locally with LAPD to begin with. Are they going to hire locally? To do that fire department, are they hire locally? We should go down the list and find ways to shed some light on these really dark areas. Thank you.
Gracias.
Mr. Labange.
Thank you. Two things. I
Dos
understand
cosas yo
hiring
entiendo
locally. I
con
just want to know
localmente
that.
más
I'd
que
love to
los
see anyone who's born in
que
Los
nació en
Angeles
Los
get a little,
Ángeles,
if
que
they really
agarren
want
un
to work for
poquito
Los Angeles,
trabajo
they
por
get a
eso
little
quiera.
step up. But
Poquito
that's
paso,
all the
pero es todo
personnel
el
has
personal que
to, how
tiene
they do that. They used to give
como se les antes daban
points for
puntos
veterans
para
when they
veteranos
hired
cuando
on
contrataban.
this particular
En
case
este
here.
caso en
But then
particular,
you
pero
spoke
usted
eloquently, and I
habló
wanted to
elocuentemente,
suggest
quiere
something, and
sugerir
it may
algo
not have
y
anything to do
no
with
tiene que ver
me.
nada de la mejor.
But when you spoke with the
Porque usted habló
commissioners,
de los
because not all of them
comisionados,
may
porque
have
no
a
todos
good,
pueden
firm
tener una
awareness of the
firma
whole
de
city.
darse cuenta
You
de
know
toda la
how the
ciudad,
mayor
saben
has
cómo
his
el alcalde tiene su
neighborhood
convención
convention
de
of
los
all the neighborhood
convenciones de todos los
councils?
consejos de
I think there
vecindad
should
y
be a
yo creo que
convention
debería
of
una
all the city
convención por todas las
commissioners, so
comisiones
they
de la ciudad
learn
para
about
que
the
aprendan
issues of your
que sean las cosas
district,
de su
of the
distrito,
15th,
del
of the
15,
7th,
del 17,
of the 4th, of all the districts
todos
in
los
such a way,
distritos
and
de
they
tal
blend
manera que
and
se
see what. I
junten
just
para
wanted
ver
to throw
más
that out
carácter en eso.
because I know you
Porque
have
yo
that
sé que
passion,
tienen
and I
esa
share that
pasión
as
y yo se
well.
comparto en eso
Thank you,
también.
Mr.
Gracias,
President.
señor presidente.
Council President, just one
Estoy
question.
nomás una pregunta.
How can I know
¿Cómo
that we're going to
puedo
get that
podemos
feedback from the
agradecer
commissioners?
de los
Is that
comisionados?
part of the report?
¿Es
Is that
parte
an
del
amendment
reporte?
to
¿Es
the
solamente el
report?
reporte?
How does that happen?
¿Cómo pasa eso?
Well,
I'd like to direct,
Me
let's
gustaría
make an
que
amendment,
vamos a un
a
amendamiento
directive that
directivo
states
que diga
that in the report,
en
we'll
el
have a
reporte van
schedule
a
of
tener un
reports
reporte
from
de
the
los
commissioners,
comisionados
of the various public
de los varios
works,
trabajos públicos
Department of Power,
de los
airport, and the
fuerzas
harbor,
aeropuerto del Harvard.
and how they're going to address this
¿Cómo
economic
van a
issue
estar
of local hiring.
That'll be an amending motion, and that'll be
Amendment.
included with the report, so the report would be
Porque el
adopted
reporte
as
sea
amended amended.
votado como está
That's-
amendado, sí, eso,
passes.
sí, eso pasó.
And I don't think there's an objection to
No
that
creo que
amending
sea en
motion.
eso.
Any further discussion
¿Alguna
on
más
this item?
discusión en este asunto?
Members wishing to be
Miembros que
heard?
deseen ser oídos.
Seeing none,
Yo
let's
sin
consider
ninguno
the
vamos a
matter as
comenzar el
amended.
asunto como está amendado.
Madam Clerk, please open
Vamos
the
a
roll.
revisar la lista.
Please close the
Cierre la
roll
lista,
and tabulate
establece
the
el
vote.
voto.
13
13
ayes.
sí.
This has been a very good
Es
discussion.
una buena discusión.
That is
Está
approved.
aprobado.
Next item, please.
Item number 6 was being held on the desk. A motion is required on that one. The committee report has been submitted and distributed to the council members.
Okay, is anybody wishing to move
¿Alguien
the committee
mover
report?
el
Item
reporte del
6,
comité
Mr.
número
Reyes?
6, señor Regir?
Yes, I'd just like to
Sí,
encourage
nos
my
quería
colleagues
adelantar
that
a
we
mis
can
colegas
move
y
the plum
podemos ver
report
el reporte del
and make
plan
that the
y
directive.
hacer directo.
Okay. Any further discussion?
¿Más discusiones?
Seeing none, we
Diga,
have a
si no
motion on
tenemos
item
emoción
6.
en el
Madam
asunto
Clerk,
6,
please open
sobre
the
la
roll.
lista.
Please close
Cierre
the
la
roll
lista,
and tabulate
establece
the
el
vote.
voto.
13
13
ayes.
sí.
That is approved.
Está aprobado.
Next item.
Próximo asunto.
Item number 7 is
Asunto
called
número 7,
special by
voy a mostrar al
Councilmember
concejal
Weiss.
Weiss.
Mr. Weiss,
Señor Weiss,
item 7.
asunto 7.
Colleagues, just want to
Colegas,
call this
nomás
to your
quiero llevar
attention.
esto en su
This
atención,
item
este asunto,
puts the council
pone al Consejo
in support
en
of an item
soporte de
called
un
the
asunto que se
Sexual
llama
Assault Survivors
asunto
DNA
de
Bill of Rights,
derechos
proposal
de
that has been put forward
derechos
in
que fue puesto en
Sacramento.
Sacramento.
We've taken a number of
Hemos tomado
past
un número de
actions to
acciones que
indicate how
para
strongly
indicar
we
que tan
feel
fuerte
about the need to
creemos por la
revamp
necesidad
and
de
revise the way law
revisar de la
enforcement
manera
deals
que
with
la
sexual assault
policía con
crimes.
las
There
crímenes
is a measure
de
pending in
asaltos
Sacramento
sexuales. Hay una
that would
moción
ensure that
ahorita que
survivors
asegura
would
que
be
los sobrevivientes se
notified
notifican
by law
por
enforcement
la policía por
actions that were
acerca de
taken with
acciones que
respect
toman con
to
respecto
rape kits, the evidence
a
taken
las
from sexual
violaciones de
assault.
asaltos sexuales.
And
Y
also by supporting
también
this
por
measure, we
soportar
put
esta
the
medida
council
ponemos al
more
Consejo
strongly
más
behind
fuertemente
the Cold
atrás
Hit
de
program, which has been
COGER, que ha sido
extraordinarily useful in law
extraordinariamente
enforcement
usado
throughout the
para,
state
por todo el
over the
Estado para
course of the past
el
several
curso de
years
los varios años
to increase the
para
resources
aumentar las
dedicated to making
décadas para hacer
cold cases.
casos fríos.
We have put in
Nos
the
hemos
budget
puesto en el presupuesto
money that was not in the
dinero
mayor's
que no estaba en
budget for
el presupuesto del
the
alcalde
use of DNA
para el uso
evidence
de evidencia en DNA para
to test
una prueba
evidence
evidencia
from sexual assaults.
de actos sexuales.
There's a lot more we need to
Hay
do
mucho
in
más
this
que
area.
necesitamos hacer
There's a
en
lot
esta
more
área,
the
hay
state of
mucho más que el
California
Estado
needs
de
to do.
California necesita hacer.
At a minimum, what the
Por el
council can do
mínimo que el
today is
Consejo
go
puede
on
hacer
record
es
in
siempre
support
con el soporte
of
de
the Sexual Assault Survivors DNA Bill of Rights. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you,
derechos
Mr.
de los
Weiss.
sobrevivientes de asaltos
We recognize
sexuales.
Ms. Perry
Reconoce
at
a la
this time.
señora Perry en este momento.
I just wanted to rise to
Además,
say that
quería
Mr. Weiss is right, and
está
thanks
bien, y
for
gracias
keeping
por
this issue in the
mantener esta
forefront
cuestión de
of the
frente del Consejo.
council. This is another
Este es otro
tool for fighting crime
herramienta para
proactively
proactivamente
and
y
retroactively as well. And if we
retroactivamente
all have
también
that
si podemos
commitment,
hacer
I'm sure that we'll stand in support of you today. So I just wanted to say that I concur with that.
concurro con eso.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Gracias,
Parks.
gracias, Parks.
Mr. Chair,
Gracias,
I would just
sí, me
also
gustaría
stand
también,
in
me
support
podría
of
soportar
the motion.
en la
Also,
moción
I'd like to
también
bring
me
up that
gustaría
we've had
traer,
some
hemos
starts and
tenido unos
stops in
actos
Sacramento
en
about having
Sacramento
a
acerca de
all-felony
tener todas las felonías
DNA file, and I think
en
it's
archivo. Yo
important
creo
that
que es
it's
importante
added
que
on
se ha
to this
añadido en esta
legislation that we support the fact that all
Soportamos el hecho
felons
de que
coming out
todos
of
los
state
felones que
prison
vienen de la
are subject to
prisión de
DNA
están
testing, so
sujetos
it goes in
a
the state file and
estados que vayan al
eventually
estado y
the
eventualmente
federal file, so
al
every
archivo para
agency
que
has
todas
an
las agencias
ability
tengan la habilidad
to check
de
their
checar
DNA
su
evidence
DNA
against this
en contra de
file.
este archivo.
Without that, we
Sin
have
eso
limited
tenemos
ability
habilidades
to be
limitadas para ser
successful in catching
exitosos en
criminals
agarrar
for
criminales
a variety of
por la
crimes.
variedad
So
de crímenes.
that
Entonces eso,
amendment is
el
also
mandamiento
equally
también
as
es igualmente
important as the
importante
initial
como la
legislation.
legislación la segunda.
Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias.
Further discussion on this item?
¿Discusión más en este asunto?
Seeing none, Madam
¿Hace
Clerk,
ninguna?
please open the
Ábrese la
roll.
lista.
Please close the roll
Cierre la
and
lista.
tabulate the
Ábrese el
vote.
voto.
13
13
ayes.
sí.
That is
Pero está
approved.
aprobado.
And that's adopted
Y
as
es
amended.
adoptado como está amendado.
As amended,
¿Cómo está amendado?
Mr. Holden?
Señor
Mr.
Presidente, señor presidente,
and members,
miembros,
I'd like to take note
yo
today
tengo una
that
notada de que
of the 40-plus items
antes
that are on
del
the
asunto
agenda,
que está en la agenda,
I didn't call one
yo no llamé a
special.
un especial.
Yeah, talking to you, Jack. Yeah, Jack.
There's got to be a certificate
Debe
for
haber un
that.
certificado para eso.
Thank you, Mr. Holden.
Gracias,
Madam
Jorge.
Clerk, we still have a special agenda to
La
attend
agenda
to.
especial para
Yes,
usted,
Mr. President,
señor
this special
presidente.
meeting
La
is on
pregunta
the
especial está.
desk. You wish to-
Si algo quiere.
Temporary recess to
Temporalmente
regular meeting
regresar a la
agenda,
agenda
and
regular
please
y
call
vamos
the
ya a
roll on
la
the special
cita en
meeting.
Brinson, Galanter, Garcetti, Gruel, Han,
Junta
Holden,
especial.
Labange,
Firman
Mizikowski,
su lista de
Pacheco, Parks,
presentes.
Perry, Reyes, Weiss, Padilla, 13 members present,
13
and a quorum,
miembros
Mr.
presentes en
President.
foro.
Thank you very much. The special meeting agenda is now before us. First item, please.
First item is an
Primer
item for which
asunto es una
public
razón
hearing
por la
has been
mesa
held.
por
This
la
is
se
Rules
hizo
Elections
el
IGR
elecciones
report regarding AB 866.
Members, item number 1 of the special meeting agenda is now before us. Public hearing has been held in committee. Members wishing to call this matter special? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please open the roll. Please close the roll and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
That is approved. Next item, please.
Items 2 and 3 are items for which public hearings have not been held.
Members, items 2 and
Miembros,
3
el
of the
asunto
special
2
meeting
de la
agenda
agenda
before
especial
us.
entre nosotros.
I do not have
No
requests
tengo
from members of
petición
the
del
public
público
to
para
address the council
nombrar su
on these
consejo en
items.
estos dos
We shall deem
asuntos.
the public
Vamos a
hearing
la mesa pública
satisfied. Members,
satisfecha.
any specials?
Miembros,
I see
alguna
Ms. Perry
especial,
and
señora
Mr.
Perez, señor
Pacheco.
Pacheco.
Ms. Perry?
I'm sorry, Mr. President, I had
Yo
wanted to
quería
call special
llamar
from the
especial
regular
de la agenda
agenda
regular.
because I wanted,
Porque
I
quería
can't do it now, so I have to wait till you adjourn this meeting and then we'll go back?
Yes.
Okay, fine.
Okay. Ms. Miskowski?
I'd just like to move receive and
Vamos a
file
hablar de
item 3.
seguridad número 3.
Okay, there's a motion to receive
Moción para
and
recibir
file
en
item
archivo
3.
asunto 3.
Is there any objection?
Si hay una objeción.
If not,
Si
Mr.
no,
Pacheco
señor
has called
Pacheco ha
item
llamado
2
asunto
special.
número 2 especial.
Madam Clerk, please
Señor
open the
Clerk,
roll
ábrese la
on
lista y
receiving and
recibiendo
filing
en
item
archivo
3.
el asunto 3.
Please close the
Ahí
roll
cierre la
and
lista y
tabulate
tablece
the
el
vote.
voto.
14 ayes.
14 sí.
Item 3 is received
Asunto
and
3 está
filed.
en archivo.
Item 2 now before us, Mr. Pacheco.
Señor Pacheco.
Mr. President, I just wanted to call item
Quiero
number 2
llamar el
special
centro
and
especial
highlight
y
that
subrayar que
the CLA
el
report
reporte CLA
indicates that
indica que
at this time,
en este momento
not pursuing the
no siguiente
Transportation Museum would
Museo de
be
Transportación
an appropriate
es
act
un
and
acto
to move
inapropiado
forward
para mover para adelante.
on the, and instruct the CLA to
Instruir al
move
CLA
forward
que se mueva
on
para adelante
developing an
el
RFP
desarrollo
for the
del
Pico Garnier
RFP
portions.
por sí.
And so I would just ask to
Entonces
move
pediría que
the
muevan
CLA's
el
report.
reporte CLA.
Thank you very much for the
Gracias por
discussion
la
on this
discusión
item.
en este asunto.
Seeing none,
Y
Madam
sin
Clerk,
ninguna,
please
ábrese
open the
la
roll.
lista.
Please close the
Cierres de la
roll
lista,
and tabulate
tablece
the
el
vote.
voto.
14 ayes.
14
That
sí.
is
Está aprobado.
approved, and I believe that
Creo que
is the end of our
es el
special
final
meeting
de la
agenda.
agenda especial.
Let's adjourn the special
Entonces,
meeting,
la
return now
agenda
to the
especial,
regular
volvemos
meeting
a la agenda
agenda.
especial.
Ms. Perry?
Irregular, señora Perry.
Ms. Perry had a motion
Señora
for
Perry tiene una moción para
reconsideration.
reconsideración.
Thank you very much,
Muchas
Mr.
gracias, señor
President.
presidente.
I wanted to call
Más quiero
special, I
llamar
believe it's
especial, creo
items,
que es asuntos
I think it's 11,
11,
11 and 12.
11 y 12.
Because
Porque
we want to just put the
Queríamos
questions on the record on those items and
con
then
ese asunto
continue
y
them
luego
for a
continuarlos
report
para un
back.
reporte.
Okay.
Ok,
I previously
tenemos
acted on items
supremamente
11
en
and
asunto
12.
11-12.
So I believe this is
Entonces
a
yo
motion
creo
for
que es una moción para
reconsideration.
reconsideración.
Madam Clerk, please open the
Ábrese
roll
la
on
lista,
reconsideration of items 11 and
11,
12 from today's
12 de la
agenda.
agenda de hoy.
Please close the roll
Cierre la
and
lista y
tabulate the
tablece
vote.
el voto.
14 ayes.
14 sí.
Those matters are
Los asuntos están
reconsidered back before
reconsiderados
us.
otra
Ms.
vez de
Perry,
regreso a Perry.
should we take these matters
Tomamos
concurrently?
ustedes concurrentes.
Yes,
Sí,
the same issues.
las mismas
11 and
cuestiones,
12
11 y
before
12.
us.
Given
Dando que
the amount of
la
time
cantidad de
that these
tiempo que estas
franchises will be
franquicias van
active or have the right to
Activas, o
operate
tienen derecho para
in
operar.
not only my district, I
Digamos,
believe my
nuestro
colleague to my
pero
right
creo que
has some
mi
comments to
derecha
make
tiene
on the
los
record,
comentarios
and
para
I believe these are up to a
creo que
decade,
hace una década.
have significant
Tienen
impacts in
impactos
our respective
significantes
communities.
en
I believe and concur with my colleague that it is extremely important that we get some information on what these companies intend to do to benefit the communities in which they are operating in terms of apprenticeship, outreach, job training, job placement, environmental mitigations, environmental improvement and enhancement programs. And I'm not sure which entity will be preparing a report back to City Council, but I would like to join with my colleague to say that I'd like these items continued so we can get some answers to these questions before we vote on these items today.
Perry, your preference for the timeline of continuance? 1 week, 2 weeks, 30 days? 1 week?
Una semana.
Okay, 1 week continuance.
Una semana
we'll
continuamos
put it
para
at May
ponerlo
30th.
eso en mayo 30.
Without objection,
Sin
items
objeción,
11 and
el
12 are
asunto 11 y
continued.
12 continuados.
Next item, please.
Próximo asunto, por favor.
This is the time for
Este es
comments
tiempo
from the
para
public on
comentarios del
items
público
not
en
on
asuntos
council's
no
agenda.
en la agenda
The
del
council
Consejo
calls
de
forward
para adelante.
Ms. Crystal
La señora
Simpson
Crystal
at this
Simpson en
time.
este momento.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Hable, señor.
Good morning, council
Buenos
members.
días,
This is
Consejo.
directed
Esto es directo
specifically
para
for
específicamente para
Ms. Perry.
la señora
I was
Perry.
attending the
Yo
school,
estaba asistiendo a la
Able Freeman
escuela
Occupational Center
Freeman
that's in her
Occupational, que
district.
está en su distrito.
Throughout the duration
Por toda la
of me attending
duración
this
de
school,
la
there were
visita a la
several
escuela hubo
conflicts
varios conflictos.
with an instructor there.
Una instructora ahí.
And I brought this to administration's attention, all for it to be minimized and put to the side and swept under the rug. I continuously tried to speak with people such as
Gente
Ms.
tales
Nancy
como Nancy
Woodrum, people
Woodrum,
from different
gente de
offices
diferentes
to try to
oficinas
get
que
this
trataron de
resolved.
arreglar después.
I never wanted it to
Nunca
go
quería
this
que
far,
pasara
but
hasta
however,
lejos,
this
pero
is where it
esto
ended
es
up.
donde terminó.
Once I brought it
Una
to
vez que
the
lo traje la
attention
atención de
of the administration,
la
that I was
administración
looking to
que yo
take
estaba
it
buscando tomar
further up
más
the ladder,
adelante en la escalera,
2 days later, I was
Dos días
expelled
después fue
from the school.
despedida de la escuela.
This is something that I've been trying to
Eso es algo que
express to
trato de
them. I have
expresarles a ellos. Yo
letters
tengo
dated back
cartas
to
fechadas hasta
October
octubre,
where I was
donde yo
expressing
fui
that me
expresando
coming forward
y que yo iba a venir para adelante.
to express my concerns in
Las
regard to this
preocupaciones
teacher
acerca de
will
este
result in
maestro
me
va a resultar
being retaliated
en-
against. And I have evidence of
Y
that.
tengo evidencia
My
de eso.
grades,
Mis grados,
where she corrected my
donde
papers
corrigió mis
differently from
papeles
other
diferente a
students in
otros
the
estudiantes en la
classroom,
clase,
things of that nature.
cosas de esa
And none
naturaleza,
of these
y nada de
things
estas cosas
were addressed
fueron
fairly.
llevadas
It
justamente.
ended up where I
Terminó
was
donde
asked
yo
to no
fui,
longer
pedía que no
go to the school.
fuera a la escuela.
I finished
Yo
3/4
terminé
of
tres
what I was
cuartos de
supposed
lo
to
que yo
finish,
tenía que
and I
terminar.
still have not
Y todavía
received
no
my
recibí
certificates. I
certificados.
filled out a complaint and
Y
forwarded
una
it
queja
to
para
the
que
school board,
la
which I haven't
escuela,
heard
que no ha
from
habido
since.
desde aquel entonces.
The post-secondary
De la
vocational
secundaria,
studies in
estudios
Sacramento, I
vocacionales de
haven't heard from
Sacramento,
them
no había
either.
de
Ma'am,
ellos.
if I can ask
Si
you
lo
to
puedo
conclude,
pedir,
I'm
que
getting
concluya
signals from
vuestro
Ms. Perry
señor
that
de
she's
la señora
ready to
Pérez,
speak
que está
at this
lista a
time.
hablar con usted en este momento.
Thank you very much for
Thank
being
you.
here.
Gracias por estar
And
aquí.
this concludes
Y eso
public
termina
comment
el
for
comentario
today's meeting.
público de la agenda de
Madam Clerk, remaining at the desk, please.
Council has motions for posting and referral.
Motion shall be
Por
posted and
echarse
referred.
There are excuses on the desk. Councilmember Reyes requests to be excused June 10th, 11th, and 13th for personal business. Those meet council policy.
Mr. Reyes is excused.
Councilmember Galante requests to be excused Tuesday, June 3rd for city business. That also meets council policy.
Blanchard is excused.
And that clears the desk, Mr. President.
Members, are there any announcements today? Mr. Labange?
Memorial Day weekend, so I want to ask, when we do rise to adjourn, in memory of all those who served in the armed
sirvieron en las
forces,
Fuerzas
who gave their
Armadas, que
lives in
dieron sus
defense of
vidas
this
en defensa
country,
de este país.
and also
Y también
remind all
terminar a todos los
Angelinos to
angelinos que
drive with
Para que
more
con
caution,
más cuidado.
motorists on the road, more people stayed at
la
home,
gente se quedó en casa.
and do the right thing and
La
enjoy
cosa bien,
the
disfruten
city
la
of
ciudad
Los Angeles and
de
Southern
Los Ángeles,
California,
sur de California.
and some family experience this weekend
experiencias este fin
somewhere.
de semana.
But remember our
Recuerden que
fallen members of the armed
Miembros de
forces
las
this
Fuerzas
Memorial
Armadas,
Day
Día
weekend,
Memorial,
which is
la
celebrated
semana que
this
se celebra
Monday,
este lunes.
be held in their heart.
En
Thank
sus
you.
corazones.
Thank you, Mr.
Muchas
Labange,
gracias,
indeed.
Labange.
And as a lot of people are
Mucha
taking to
gente
the
está
road
tomando para las
this
calles
weekend
este
for
fin de
travel,
semana para viajar.
we wish that everybody travels
Deseamos que todos
safely.
viajen
For those
seguros.
not going
Para
very
los que
far, a
no
lot
van
of
a ir muy
families
lejos,
are
muchas familias
having gatherings
se
and
van
barbecues in
con
Los Angeles.
los
Please be
barbecues en Los
safe
Ángeles.
around
Tengan
that
seguros.
barbecue pit.
Entonces,
Mr. Holden for an announcement.
muchas gracias.
President, members, I'm going to request at this
Voy a
time
pedir que en
that
este
I be excused
momento que
next
se
Tuesday
excuse
on
el
city
parte
business.
de negocios de la ciudad.
So let the record show.
Okay.
Oh, you don't want me around, huh?
Mr. Zine.
I'll be here next Tuesday to call a
Pensaba
couple
que el martes voy a
specials on your
llevar una
behalf.
expresión parte este.
I mean, the Metusa.
On the serious note,
En hora seria, no.
we have at 1 o'clock this afternoon at Parker Center,
Parker Center.
the memory of
Memoria
Los Angeles
de
police
los
officers who died in the line of
policías
duty.
que murieron en la
That
línea
service will take place at 1
Va a
o'clock
tomar
in
la
front of
tarde
Parker
enfrente del
Center.
Park Center.
Also, I want to
También
remind
quiero
our viewers
recordar
that this
los que
Monday
este lunes
at 11
a
a.m.
las 11 de
will
la
be the
mañana
annual
va a
Memorial
haber
Parade, which will start at Topanga Canyon and Sherman Way, proceed east on Sherman Way to DeSoto, down to Van Owen, back to Topanga, and Van Owen will be a festival, family festival that'll take place for the rest of the day, so everyone's invited to the southwest San Fernando Valley this Monday Memorial Day. Bring your families out to enjoy the parade. We'll be honoring our military during that parade, and also the family festival. So if you're in town and you have nothing to do, come on out to the Main Street Canova Park Parade this coming Monday, starting at 11 a.m. Topanga Canyon and Sherman Way. Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Zine. Other announcements? Mr. Park?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I have two announcements. One, the Board of Directors of the MG's Academy are having their grand opening of their new child care center at 6570 South Normandy, and that's on Saturday, May 24th at 10 a.m. this should be of particular interest to the city, in that the city helped fund this by $400,000 grant through the Community Development Department, and also other fundings with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. They have their grand opening. This announcement for my colleagues is that it's my intention that on next Wednesday, the ITGS committee agenda, and also for Friday's council consideration, will be an issue of importance to protection of the cable TV consumers in the city. The item deals with the rate rollback for Adelphia, which means a recall of approximately $5.5 million to our customers. Encourage any council member that's interested in that meeting to be there at 2 o'clock Wednesday to testify.
Other announcements?
I have an announcement, and as is our tradition and history here on the City Council, at least since I've been here, when one of our colleagues is celebrating a birthday, we recognize it, and sometimes we sing, we don't have to sing today, but it happens to be a woman who's anticipating another birthday next month, but today is actually her birthday. Wendy Girl, happy birthday! Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Ms. Gruhl. Double celebration this weekend. Other announcements? If not, please rise for adjourning motions. We have adjourning tributes today. Mr. Parks.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. I have an adjourning motion on behalf of Leonard Jackson Sr., the father of Reverend Leonard Jackson from the First A&E Church, who was born June 10, 1923, passed away May 20th, 2003. Services are in New York on Wednesday, May 28th, 2003. Service will be held at the House of Hills Funeral Home in Brooklyn, New York.
Ms. Perry.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I would like to adjourn in the memory of Linda Mabalot, who passed away on May 19, 2003, after a battle with cancer at the age of 49. She was a Filipino-American filmmaker and community activist, the executive director of visual communications for over 2 decades. She was also the executive director for VC Film Fest and the Los Angeles Asian Pacific Film and Video Festival. She was one of the founders of the APA Filmmakers Experience at Park City, and she was a great influence in establishing the APA First Weekend Club newsletter. She worked quietly and diligently at the difficult task of finding resources, cultivating the creative talents of fellow filmmakers, and advocating for every opportunity for API stories to be preserved and told. She produced and directed such projects as Manong, a documentary on the history of Filipinos in California. She was the executive producer for Moving the Image, a television series, and producer-director of Hiroshima 20 years later, and organized a statewide touring photographic exhibit called Heading East. She advocated for the democratization of media in which communities control, own, and produce their own truthful images. She also believed that with access to technology and the delivery systems, the voices and stories from communities of color would have an impact to affect positive social change. She will be sorely missed by all artists, filmmakers, media makers, and anyone who had a chance to work with her, as she was a light of encouragement and a source of inspiration. She leaves behind a great legacy of community activism and a great example of the power of one. Services are pending in Sacramento, and a celebration of her life will be planned for June the 22nd in Los Angeles. Condolences and expressions of sympathy can be sent to Visual Communications, 120 South Judge John Aiso Street, basement level, Los Angeles, California, 90012.
Thank you, Ms. Perry.
I'm sorry, I missed this. I just learned from reading yesterday's paper that Susan Nelson died last week, and I think, given given her contributions to the city of Los Angeles, we certainly should adjourn in her memory. And both Eric and Cindy may want to join in this. Oh, we already did it? Was it yesterday? Oh, you did it? I would like to add.
Será añadido. Gracias, señora Galante.
Other tributes?
Otros tributos.
Mr. Labange.
Just everybody remember Memorial Day for what it is, for the memorial of those who served our country.
Y para todos sus tributos, señora Clerk, llámese la lista. Con esto ya terminamos.
Thank you all very much. This meeting is adjourned.